However, he was not planning to stay here any longer. He immediately said to the little mermaid, "Above you. I have another adopted son named Gu Yinling. He is your older brother. From now on, your name will be Gu Little Fish." After speaking, Gu Qijue said to the dragon prince, "Your name, on the other hand, is Gu Qijue. Have the two of you memorized that?" Gu Qijue nodded upon hearing this, memorized it. Gu Little Fish's small face crumpled. "I didn't remember what younger brother is called." Gu Qijue immediately had to rub his temples in frustration. Gu Little Fish's potential was astonishing, growing steadily. She could become a deity. The only flaw was that this daughter goose was an idiot. Even Gu Qijue himself remembered, but she couldn't, of course. It might also be because Gu Little Fish is still young. She might become smarter when she grows up. Just as Gu Qijue was comforting himself this way, Gu Little Fish suddenly spoke up nervously. "Father, I forgot what my own name is." Gu Qijue was completely stunned this time. Was this the memory of a fish? Fortunately, after Gu Little Fish tilted her small head and thought for a while, she remembered her name again. "Father, I remember now. My name is Gu Little Fish." Seeing this, Gu Qijue tugged at Gu Qijue's clothes corner, pointed at Gu Little Fish and said, "Adoptive father, older sister is too stupid." Hearing this, Gu Little Fish swung her fish tail and came before Gu Qijue, picked up the adorably ugly Gu Qijue and said, "Please reorganize your words." Seeing his older sister's fierce expression, Gu Qijue, who possessed demigod peak strength, cried out in fright. Gu Qijue understood then that both Gu Little Fish and Gu Qijue were very powerful, but they both had the heart nature of children. Unlike Gu Yinling, who was mature for his age and capable of handling things independently, Gu Qijue did not let the two little ones continue to fuss, but grabbed Gu Little Fish's hand and continued to instill demonic power into her. Gu Little Fish was currently only king rank, her strength was too weak, and she could easily die. Under the continuous nourishment of his powerful demonic power, which contained the strength of the blood dragon god, Gu Little Fish grew rapidly all the way to imperial rank. This scene naturally left Jai Yinyu, who was standing nearby, dumbfounded, but Jai Yinyu also understood that if one's own power was not highly compatible with Gu Qijue's, and if one's own aptitude was not high enough, forcing growth like this would only have one consequence, being directly exploded by Gu Qijue's terrifying pressure. Gu Qijue originally thought that Gu Little Fish should be able to grow to imperial rank peak. Unexpectedly, after reaching imperial rank, she could no longer advance rapidly. She clearly needed a period of settling and absorption before she could continue her rapid growth. "Please give some monthly tickets, recommendation tickets, thank you." 166. The annihilation of the Dragonblood demon clan after thoroughly searching the space where the blood dragon god resided. Gu Qijue, along with Jai Yinyu and his adopted son and daughter, left the place. There was nothing else here. All the treasures had already been acquired by him. As Gu Qijue left with Jai Yinyu and the others, the Mermaid Emperor, the Black Flood Dragon Emperor, and the Water Spirit Emperor also arrived at the Dragon Abyss entrance. The so-called Dragon Abyss entrance was the deep trench where the Blood Dragon God was located. The Mermaid Emperor, the Black Flood Dragon Emperor, and the Water Spirit Emperor thought that, given the Blood Dragon God's power, if it knew its bloodline descendants were about to be annihilated, the Blood Dragon God would not stand idly by. They came here with their last hope to pray. The Mermaid Emperor, spoke with extreme piety. "Lord Blood Dragon God, we are the Yao race that grew strong by the nourishment of your bloodline power. Although we have worshipped you countless times, we have never received a response. But now, the Dragon Blood Demon clan has truly reached a moment of life and death. We beg Lord Blood Dragon God, save your people." After the Mermaid Emperor finished speaking, the large number of offerings they had prepared were thrown into the Dragon Abyss. These offerings were various treasures and energy stones, but unfortunately, the Blood Dragon God's pressure beneath the Dragon Abyss was too strong. In the past, the offerings they threw into the Dragon Abyss were crushed to dust by the Blood Dragon God's pressure. This time was different. Gu Qijue had now obtained the complete legacy of the Blood Dragon God, and all of the Blood Dragon God's power was sealed within his body. The large number of treasures and energy stones thrown in by the Mermaid Emperor and the other Yao race members also continuously fell downwards at this time. These falling energy stones were a boon for the ugly but adorable Gu Qijue. He transformed into a blood dragon and began to devour various materials along the way. After Gu Qijue saw that among the many treasures there were star sand and the 6 fiber that he needed, he raised his hand and beckoned. Then these materials were enveloped by his demonic power and all sent into his spatial device. In the coming period, demigods and gods would undoubtedly be very useful. Therefore, he couldn't look down on these materials for creating demigods just because he himself had become a demigod. His strength was certainly immense, but besides fighting, he also needed to cultivate and improve, develop his influence, and enjoy life. Without a sufficient number of demigods and gods to share these tasks, he would constantly have to be in a state of battle, which was absolutely unacceptable. When Gu Qijue arrived outside the dragon abyss with Gu Yinyu and the others, the Mermaid Emperor, the Black Flood Dragon Emperor, and the Water Spirit Emperor, who were still praying devoutly in that place, were stunned, especially the Mermaid Emperor, who stared at Gu Qijue for a moment, then respectfully bowed. "Greetings, Lord Blood Dragon God." Upon hearing this, the Black Flood Dragon Emperor and the Water Spirit Emperor also bowed. They also felt that Gu Qijue's aura was very similar to that of the Blood Dragon God. However, they weren't sure if the person in front of them was the Blood Dragon God. Moreover, in the past, when they prayed and worshipped the Blood Dragon God, it never responded. So why did the Blood Dragon God appear this time? Gu Qijue's gaze swept over the three of them, the Mermaid Emperor, and then he said, "You are the so-called Dragon Blood Demon clan, right?" The Mermaid Emperor didn't know why Gu Qijue asked this, but still nodded. Replying to Lord Blood Dragon God, "We are indeed the Dragon Blood Demon clan." Gu Qijue nodded upon hearing this, then said, "I am not the Blood Dragon God, but I have received the Blood Dragon God's complete legacy. I can give you an opportunity to become my subjects." These Yao race members, after all, had been nourished by the Blood Dragon God's divine blood, making them kindred spirits with him, and their potential was also quite good. If they were willing to become his subjects, Gu Qijue would not be unwilling to give these Dragon Blood Demon clan members a way to survive. The Mermaid Emperor, the Black Flood Dragon Emperor, and the Water Spirit Emperor had originally come for help. Of course, they would not refuse Gu Qijue's proposal. However, there was still one problem. Could Gu Qijue protect them? The Mermaid Emperor bowed to Gu Qijue again, then respectfully said, "Lord, we are willing to become your subjects. But the Dragon Blood Demon clan is currently facing a crisis." Gu Qijue casually asked, "What crisis?" The Mermaid Emperor, of course, did not conceal anything and spoke of the troublesome matter they were currently facing. "Lord, originally there were only 3 demigods in the South Heng domain, and the 3 of us in the South Heng Sea could harness the power of Lord Blood Dragon God to possess demigod combat strength. But now, a large number of demigod powerhouses have appeared in the South Heng domain. According to our intelligence, these demigod powerhouses will descend upon the South Heng Sea soon. We possess some of Lord Blood Dragon God's bloodline power in our bodies, which is considered a great tonic for other beings. When a large number of demigods descend upon the South Heng Sea, we, the Dragon Blood Demon clan, will surely face annihilation." After the Mermaid Emperor finished speaking, she cautiously looked at Gu Qijue. The Black Flood Dragon Emperor and the Water Spirit Emperor also looked at Gu Qijue. Although Gu Qijue had obtained the complete legacy of the Blood Dragon God, the 3 of them, including the Mermaid Emperor, did not know how strong he truly was. Not only that, the 3 of them, the Mermaid Emperor included, didn't even know Gu Qijue's true identity at this moment. It wasn't that they hadn't seen images of Head of State Gu Qijue of Emperor Star. It was that Gu Qijue had used demonic power to change his and Gu Yinyu's appearances. No matter how formidable the Black Flood Dragon Emperor and the other 2 were, they would never have imagined that the person before them was the famous Head of State Gu Qijue of Emperor Star. While the Mermaid Emperor and the others were extremely nervous, Gu Qijue merely smiled indifferently. "Since you are already my subjects, then no matter how many demigods come from the South Heng domain and other places, they will all die." Gu Qijue's words were utterly arrogant and presumptuous. However, he wasn't boasting. He could now crush all demigods. Even against true gods, he could put up a fight. Yet, the Mermaid Emperor's heart remained very uneasy. There were 2 possibilities for Gu Qijue now. One was that he was truly incredibly powerful. The other possibility was that he had become overconfident after receiving the Blood Dragon God's legacy. Believing that after obtaining the Blood Dragon God's legacy, he could sweep away all opposition. However, the Mermaid Emperor dared not say anything unpleasant. She could only speak relatively subtly. "Lord, we still do not know your identity. Furthermore, caution is the parent of safety. Although the Lord is incredibly powerful, there are still quite a few demigods in the South Heng domain now." The Water Spirit Emperor understood the Mermaid Emperor's meaning and joined the ranks of those offering advice, but she was clearly also good with words. "Yes, Lord. 2 fists are no match for 4 hands, and a fierce tiger cannot withstand a pack of wolves." Although the Lord is incredibly powerful, the number of those despicable villains is simply too great, we must guard against them. 167. 5 demigods joined forces to attack, given Gu Qijue's wisdom. How could he not know what these fellows were worried about? They were simply afraid that he had been boasting earlier, and that he wouldn't be able to handle it if 2 random demigods from the South Heng domain came later. However, it was also clear that the leaders of the Dragon Blood Demon clan were quite smart. Even though he had obtained the legacy of the Blood Dragon God, the leaders of the Dragon Blood Demon clan were still able to maintain a cautious attitude. There was a reason they were able to develop to their current scale in the South Heng Sea. Of course, Gu Qijue still decided to teach them a lesson. He casually said to Gu Qijue, "Qijue, let them see your power." Gu Qijue had already returned to his ugly cute dragon prince appearance, and upon hearing Gu Qijue's words, he did not hesitate. Soon, under the shocked gazes of the Mermaid Emperor and the other 2, Gu Qijue transformed into a mini version of the Blood Dragon God. Although it was a mini version of the Blood Dragon God, the aura it released still made the Mermaid Emperor and the other 2 instinctively prostrate themselves in worship. The Mermaid Emperor spoke in disbelief. "Demigod peak?" The Black Flood Dragon Emperor swallowed a mouthful of saliva. Completely stunned, this ugly cute little dragon was actually so terrifying. Even in its infancy, it was already at a level infinitely close to a god. The Water Spirit Emperor was also stunned, staring blankly at Gu Qijue and Gu Qijue. At this moment, she was extremely shocked but also extremely happy. Gu Qijue truly wasn't exaggerating. As long as Gu Qijue was present, any demigods who came from the South Heng domain would surely die. Although the South Heng domain also had powerful demigods, Gu Qijue was at the demigod 9th level peak, only a subtle step away from becoming a true god. Under such circumstances, what did they have left to worry about? It was also at this time that Gu Qijue temporarily withdrew the demonic power covering his body. The Mermaid Emperor and the other 2 also saw his true appearance. After knowing his true identity, the 3, including the Mermaid Emperor, once again knelt and paid their respects. "Greetings to your excellency." Chief Gu Qijue was quite satisfied seeing their reaction. The Dragon Blood Demon clan could be considered a natural ally of Emperor Star. Although the Dragon Blood Demon clan were also beings of the South Heng domain, but because they possessed dragon blood, the beings of the South Heng domain regarded them as advanced materials. However, Gu Qijue still posed a life-or-death question to the 3 of them. "Are you willing to submit to Emperor Star?" The Mermaid Emperor and the other 2 certainly knew this was not a free-score question, but a life-or-death question. If they answered poorly, their lives would be forfeit. The Mermaid Emperor did not hesitate. "Since Chief Gu has obtained the legacy of Lord Blood Dragon God, we are willing to submit to Emperor Star." If she hadn't said that first sentence, it would have made them look like traitors to the Shenhuang continent. In reality, they had no choice but to seek refuge with Gu Qijue. After all, the beings of the South Heng domain had never treated them as their own. After the Mermaid Emperor, the Black Flood Dragon Emperor and Water Spirit Emperor spoke one after another. These 2 were naturally also willing to submit to Emperor Star. Gu Qijue was very satisfied with the attitude of the 3. After he once again used demonic power to disguise himself, his gaze subtly changed. The Mermaid Emperor nervously asked, "Your Excellency, the head of state, has something happened?" Gu Qijue nodded. "Your judgment was correct. The demigods of the South Heng domain are indeed impatient. 5 demigods have entered the South Heng domain and are rapidly heading in this direction. If this were before, knowing that 5 demigods were arriving together would have terrified the Mermaid Emperor and the other 2. Dealing with 3 demigods was already extremely difficult for them. If 5 demigods came at once, the only thing they could do was commit suicide, which would at least be more dignified. Things were different now. Head of State Gu Qijue of Emperor Star was here, and beside him was Gu Qijue, who was at the demigod peak. Dealing with 5 demigods was definitely not a problem. Gu Qijue's thoughts were different from those of the Mermaid Emperor and the other 2. Their thought was that he could deal with 5 demigods. His thought was that 5 precious demigod crystal cores were rapidly approaching him. Demigod crystal cores could be used to create demigods, or they could be used directly to create gods, and this time, Gu Qijue was preparing to use the demigod crystal cores to create gods. The 5 demigods who entered the South Heng Sea were not demigods from the South Heng domain, but demigods from other places. After learning that there were benefits in the South Heng Sea, the 5 of them did not hesitate and prepared to come together to make a fortune. Although the southeast continent plate of the Shenhuang continent is now divided into the Four Domains Alliance and the Five Domains Alliance. However, the goal of the Five Domains Alliance was to have the Four Domains Alliance consume Emperor Star's power to the greatest extent, rather than allowing Emperor Star to continue strengthening itself through war. The result of the Great War between Emperor Star and the Four Domains Alliance should be severe damage, or even near death. Only then could the Five Domains Alliance reap the profits and have the last laugh. Under such circumstances, the Five Domains Alliance naturally had to give the Four Domains Alliance sufficient support. They not only provided a large amount of resources, but also a large number of regular combat units. They also provided some demigods as support to the Four Domains Alliance. Of the 5 demigods who entered the South Heng Sea this time, 2 were sent by the Five Domains Alliance. Their names are Qian Yuan and Qian Yi. Both Qian Yuan and Qian Yi hail from the Tianqian domain of the Five Domains Alliance. The Tianqian domain has a vast ocean and numerous floating islands. This makes Qian Yuan and Qian Yi highly skilled in combat within water domains. Since they were highly skilled in water combat, after learning about the benefits in the South Heng Sea this time, they naturally had to utilize their strengths. The operation to enter the South Heng Sea this time was led by Qian Yuan and Qian Yi. In a certain water area, Qian Yuan watched the surrounding Yao race members flee in panic, and a cruel, sinister smile appeared on his face. He even said aloud, "I hope the so-called Mermaid Emperor, Black Flood Dragon Emperor, and Water Spirit Emperor don't get scared and flee when they see us approaching. After all, the South Heng Sea is quite large, and we don't have that much time to play cat and mouse with them." Qian Yi. Demigod heard this and raised a finger, pointing at the Dragon Blood Demon Clan members desperately fleeing in the South Heng Sea. "Don't worry, these ants will lead us to many more ants." The pressure exerted by Qian Yuan, Demigod and the other 4 continuously spread, causing many Dragon Blood Demon Clan members to panic and flee desperately toward the location of their respective clan chiefs. There were quite a few types of Dragon Blood Demon Clan members, but no matter which clan they belonged to, they could only flee desperately at this moment. The faces and eyes of the numerous Yao race members were even filled with expressions of despair, because the 3 strongest experts among the Dragon Blood Demon Clan, even utilizing the scattered power of Lord Blood Dragon God in the South Heng Sea, could only manage to deal with 3 demigods. At this moment, the numerous beings of the Dragon Blood Demon Clan had only 4 words left in their hearts: utter catastrophe. 168, if we separate. Can we escape? A sense of despair spread wildly among the many Dragon Blood Demon Clan members. At this moment, they felt their own insignificance and an unprecedented helplessness. They clearly hadn't done anything wrong, they just wanted to live normally in the South Heng Sea. But an innocent man is guilty for possessing a treasure, because they weren't strong enough. Being hunted seemed to be the ultimate fate for all of them. Now, although Qian Yuan and the other 4 demigods hadn't yet raised their butcher's knives, everyone knew in their hearts that soon, countless clansmen would fall under the butcher's knives of Qian Yuan and the 4 others. The vast Dragon Blood Demon Clan, like sheep being herded by wolves, quickly approached the location of the Mermaid Emperor and the 2 other leaders. In the past, these 3 leaders could have brought a great sense of security to everyone, but not this time. 5 demigods had come, and the 3 leaders were no match at all. As Qian Yuan, demigod, and his 4 companions pursued them, the many Dragon Blood Demon Clan members also saw their 3 leaders. To everyone's surprise, compared to them, their 3 leaders were surprisingly calm at this moment. Qian Yuan and his group of 5 soon appeared in this place. They were also somewhat puzzled when they saw the Mermaid Emperor and the 2 others. They had imagined that the entire Dragon Blood Demon Clan should be trembling with fear, as if facing a bottomless abyss or treading on thin ice. Unexpectedly, the Mermaid Emperor and the 2 others were extremely composed. Not only were they composed, but their attitude was also very firm. The Mermaid Emperor spoke coldly. "This is the home of the Dragon Blood Demon Clan. Outsiders are not welcome." The Mermaid Emperor said this not to be polite before resorting to force. Rather, it was to wait and see if any other demigods would come to join the fun. There were, of course, demigods who wanted to join the fun, but they could only think about it. There was no way for them to come. After all, the Emperor Star Alliance hung over everyone's heads like the sword of Damocles. Before solving the huge problem of the Emperor Star Alliance, many people were still unwilling to create new complications. Of course, these people did not include Qian Yuan, demigod. After the Mermaid Emperor spoke, Qian Yuan, demigod, was too lazy to waste words with her and spoke directly to the point. Hand over all your resources and all your treasures. Furthermore, 4/5 of your clansmen. Commit suicide? I will take pity on the remaining 1/5 of your clansmen and let you live. The words of Qian Yuan, demigod, were arrogant to the extreme, with 5 demigods arriving together. He indeed seemed to have the right to be imperious. However, after he finished speaking, a voice calmly emerged. Unfortunately, I don't have such mercy. I won't just kill 4 of you, all 5 of you will die. When these words spread, on the Dragon Blood Demon clan's side, everyone except the Mermaid Emperor and the 2 others showed shocked expressions. As for Qian Yuan, demigod, and the other 4, they cast extremely cold gazes in one direction. That arrogant voice just now had come from that place. Qian Yuan, demigod, and the 4 others had already seen a figure, also a demigod, slowly walking towards them from that spot. The Dragon Blood Demon clan in the South Heng domain originally had 3 fake demigods. Now it seems the Dragon Blood Demon clan has had great luck and now possesses a true demigod. But what does that matter? In terms of the number of demigods, they still held a huge advantage, fighting 5 against 4. Qian Yuan, demigod, did not take the words of head of state Gu Qijue of Emperor Star to heart. He only felt that Gu Qijue was a true demigod who had fortunately emerged from the Dragon Blood Demon clan. But after becoming a demigod, the surge in power made Gu Qijue somewhat lose touch with reality. Qian Yuan, demigod, didn't want to waste any more time. Most of the Dragon Blood Demon clan had already gathered in this place, so it was time to act. He immediately said to Qian Yi, demigod, and the other 3, "You guys keep an eye on the other ants, I'll go take care of this one." As he finished speaking, terrifying cold chi emanated from his surroundings. The seawater around Qian Yuan, demigod, first rapidly froze, and as the cold chi continued to dissipate, these ice blocks directly turned into powder. An axe possessing terrifying cold chi also appeared in Qian Yuan, demigod's hand at this moment. Without any hesitation, his figure moved, and he swung an axe at Gu Qijue with extreme speed. Whoosh! This axe easily split the waves completely. The terrifying might made all the other Dragon Blood Demon clan members, except for the Mermaid Emperor and the 2 others, sweat for Gu Qijue, although they didn't know who Gu Qijue was. Gu Qijue possessed a blood dragon god aura similar to theirs. It was clear that he was also one of the Dragon Blood Demon clan. For the Dragon Blood Demon clan to produce a demigod was, of course, a great stroke of luck. But this time it was undoubtedly going to end badly. Gu Qijue was likely a newly born demigod, while Qian Yuan was a veteran demigod powerhouse. Without sufficient time for growth and tempering, Gu Qijue would definitely not be a match for Qian Yuan, demigod. However, the scene that followed completely stunned the Dragon Blood Demon clan members and Qian Yi, demigod, and the others. As Qian Yuan, demigod's powerful and immensely strong axe swung towards Gu Qijue. Gu Qijue's eyes turned cold and he said coldly, like an ant, "Die." As the word "die" fell, a claw, wrapped in endless terrifying blood chi, was casually unleashed. This claw effortlessly shattered Qian Yuan, demigod's attack, and then with overwhelming force it tore out Qian Yuan, demigod's heart. Bang! A loud explosion rang out and Qian Yuan, demigod's heart completely burst. His body was also torn into countless fragments by an incredibly powerful force at the same time. Instant kill. In just one encounter, a demigod powerhouse like Qian Yuan, demigod, was instantly killed by Gu Qijue. Hiss! This scene was truly too shocking. All the surrounding creatures, including the Mermaid Emperor and the 2 others, couldn't help but gasp in shock. Of course, some weaker Dragon Blood Demon clan members couldn't use their force fields to block the seawater. In their shock, they opened their mouths and were forcefully filled with several gulps of seawater. But even so, they were still dumbfounded, gaping. Their eyes filled with shock as they looked at Gu Qijue. Qian Yi, demigod, and the other 4 were also extremely shocked at first, but after the shock, they immediately reacted. The demigod before them was absolutely not someone they could contend with. In this moment of life and death, Qian Yi, demigod, also displayed sufficient calmness and rationality. Split up and run? Otherwise, none of us will escape. Gu Qijue could kill Qian Yuan, demigod, in one encounter. This meant that Gu Qijue would only need 4 or 5 breaths to kill them. It was just a pity that even if they split up, it would be useless. Gu Qijue's somewhat playful voice entered their minds. If you separate, can you really escape? 169. The dead are more useful than the living. Qian Yi, demigod, and the other 4 had come to hunt powerful members of the Dragon Blood Demon clan. Now, however, they had become the targets of others' hunt. Gu Qijue did not intend to leave any of the 5 Kaianyi, demigod, alive. The demigod crystal core was a key material for creating gods, and Gu Qijue intended to eliminate all demigods from hostile forces. Kaianyi and the others were now trembling with fear, experiencing an unprecedented terror in their hearts. As arrogant and overbearing as they had been when entering the South Hang Sea, that was how pathetic they were now. Kaianyi didn't know if he could escape with his life. If he had known earlier about a terrifying existence like Gu Qijue in the South Hang Sea, he would never have dared to enter it. It was too late to say anything now. After Kaian Yuan, 2 more demigods were eliminated. Now, only he and Mu Gang, demigod, were still fleeing. Gu Qijue was extremely efficient. His figure quickly appeared not far from Mu Gang, demigod. Upon seeing Gu Qijue, Mu Gang, demigod no longer cared about his dignity and immediately prostrated himself on the ground without a word. He kowtowed repeatedly, begging for mercy. "Your Excellency, spare my life, Your Excellency, spare my life. I am willing to surrender." Mu Gang never dreamed that after becoming a demigod, he would still have such a pathetic day. What surprised him even more was the content of Gu Qijue's next sentence. "My enemies, especially enemies of the demigod realm, are not allowed to surrender." Not being allowed to surrender meant that Mu Gang could only die, but he racked his brain and couldn't understand why a living demigod wouldn't be more useful than a dead one. What Mu Gang didn't know was that it was his bad luck to encounter Gu Qijue. Gu Qijue's infinite engine could create gods. For Gu Qijue, dead demigods were even more useful than living demigods. With the death of Mu Gang, demigod, 4 of the demigods who came this time had already died. Only Kaianyi, demigod, was still fleeing. Gu Qijue tore through the void realm and quickly pursued him. Although Kaianyi, demigod, also fled by tearing through the void realm, his strength was simply incomparable to Gu Qijue's. "Your Excellency, I am willing to submit." Seeing Gu Qijue appear in front of him, Kaianyi, demigod did not hesitate and immediately chose to submit. Kaianyi thought that even a powerhouse like Gu Qijue would not refuse the submission of a demigod. Not to mention that Gu Qijue was also a demigod. Even if Gu Qijue was a true god, he would still need demigod subordinates. But Kaianyi, demigod like Mu Gang, encountered something they would never understand in their lives. Boom! The blood spear in Gu Qijue's hand suddenly struck down. The next moment, Kaianyi, demigod was easily annihilated by his powerful and terrifying blow. After obtaining the legacy of the blood dragon god, Gu Qijue's strength had received an unprecedented and terrifying improvement. Dealing with demigods of Kaianyi's level was basically an easy, crushing instant kill. After eliminating Kaianyi, Gu Qijue raised his hand, and a demigod crystal core, along with Kaianyi's magic treasure, fell into his hands. This trip to the South Hang domain yielded truly immense gains. First, he obtained the blood dragon god legacy and a series of related benefits. Now he had also obtained 5 demigod crystal cores and the allegiance of the Dragon Blood Demon clan, a group with immense potential. Afterward, he would have the Dragon Blood Demon clan help him find star sand and the 6th fiber, and he would soon gather enough materials to create gods. After eliminating the 5, Gu Qijue returned to the vicinity of the Mermaid Emperor, the Black Flood Dragon Emperor, the Water Spirit Emperor, and the many other Dragon Blood Demon clan members. The Mermaid Emperor and the others were, of course, looking at Gu Qijue with immense excitement and worship at this moment. Gu Qijue, who had obtained the complete Blood Dragon God legacy and was incomparably powerful, was their true god to the current Dragon Blood Demon clan. Under the gaze of countless eyes, Gu Qijue's majestic voice resounded in the ears of every member of the Dragon Blood Demon clan. "I am head of state Gu Qijue of Emperor Star, and I have now obtained the complete Blood Dragon God legacy. From now on, all members of the Dragon Blood Demon clan shall serve me as their master and obey my commands. Those willing to submit to me, open your minds and do not resist." As Gu Qijue's voice fell, the 3, including the Mermaid Emperor, thought for a moment and then complied. Most of the other Dragon Blood Demon clan members did the same. However, a very small number of Yao race members were unwilling to submit. In their minds, Gu Qijue asking everyone to open their minds and not resist had only one purpose: to control them. So, they immediately scattered and fled. This portion of the Dragon Blood Demon clan numbered around several hundred. Boom, 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 boom. But they clearly couldn't escape. Bolts of thunder roared in the seawater. Without exception, all of the Dragon Blood Demon clan members who chose to flee were blasted into dust. Gu Qijue asking everyone to open their minds was not to control all of the Dragon Blood Demon clan. Although these Dragon Blood Demon Clan members had potential, in Gu Qijue's eyes, the current Dragon Blood Demon Clan were merely ants. Even if these Dragon Blood Demon Clan members grew stronger in the future, it wouldn't amount to much. Gu Qijue now needed to control other beings with a mental imprint, at least starting from the true god realm. Because below the true god realm, even demigods, he would eliminate them to obtain materials. While the Mermaid Emperor, the Black Flood Dragon Emperor, the Water Spirit Emperor, and many powerful Dragon Blood Demon Clan members were pondering that from now on, they would completely lose their freedom and be controlled by Gu Qijue. Inside Gu Qijue, the terrifying power originating from the Blood Dragon God enveloped approximately 2 million members of the Dragon Blood Demon Clan. The next moment, all members of the Dragon Blood Demon Clan received an upgrade. Those at King Rank 1 were promoted to King Rank Peak. Those at King Rank Peak were promoted to Emperor Rank. Those at Imperial Rank Peak, like the three, including the Mermaid Emperor, took the crucial step to become demigods. The power of the Blood Dragon God was truly vast and boundless. Even after elevating so many members of the Dragon Blood Demon Clan, only 5% of the Blood Dragon God's power sealed within Gu Qijue was consumed. Of course, a 5% consumption was still a bit heartbreaking. But fortunately, this was only a one-time elevation. There would not be such a large consumption in the future. After receiving a significant boost, all members of the Dragon Blood Demon Clan were now completely convinced and submitted to Gu Qijue. From all directions, countless members of the Dragon Blood Demon Clan prostrated themselves before Gu Qijue, completely submitting, especially the three, including the Mermaid Emperor, who, without Gu Qijue's help, would not know when they would be able to become demigods. Gu Qijue, of course, had a purpose in elevating everyone. A portion of star sand and a portion of the sixth fiber were quickly taken out by him. One very inconvenient aspect of the Shenhuang continent was its immense size. Many top-tier resources had different names in different places. However, this didn't hinder him. Gu Qijue directly took out these two resources he needed and said to all members of the Dragon Blood Demon Clan, "Now go to various parts of the South Hang Sea and retrieve all of these two materials for me." 170. The issue of resettlement of the Dragon Blood Demon Clan after Gu Qijue gave the order. Countless members of the Dragon Blood Demon Clan from all directions immediately spoke up. "We obey, Your Excellency, the head of state." Before they could leave, Gu Qijue continued, "Wipe out all other races that have invaded the South Hang Sea. From now on, the South Hang Sea belongs only to the Dragon Blood Demon Clan and the races that submit to the Dragon Blood Demon Clan." Hearing this command, the hearts of the many members of the Dragon Blood Demon Clan were filled with ecstasy. The South Hang Sea was originally their birthplace, their home. However, the various treasures within the South Hang Sea had attracted a large number of outsiders. Now, after pledging allegiance to Gu Qijue as their master, they could finally reclaim the South Hang Sea. In the past, the Dragon Blood Demon Clan in the South Hang Sea were hunted by cultivators from all sides of the South Hang domain as precious materials. This time, the roles of attacker and defender have been reversed. The myriad races of cultivators still scattered across the South Hang Sea, preparing to hunt the Dragon Blood Demon Clan, would soon pay the heaviest price for their past actions. As time passed, large numbers of the Dragon Blood Demon Clan spread everywhere. After their strength was enhanced by Gu Qijue wherever they went, the cultivators of the myriad races were routed and slaughtered. Not only did they have the Mermaid Emperor and two other demigods anchoring the formation, but Gu Qijue also followed behind to secure the rear. Although Gu Qijue had not taken action before, his terrifying power at the demigod peak meant he didn't need to strike to exert tremendous deterrence. In the palace deep within the South Hang Sea, Gu Qijue, Jia Yinyu, and Gu Little Fish were waiting for the Mermaid Emperor and the others. Jia Yinyu previously thought that Gu Qijue was collecting large amounts of top-tier materials to create demigods. But now Gu Qijue could instantly kill the vast majority of demigods. Yet he was still enthusiastic about collecting materials. This prompted a very bold and unbelievable thought to surface in Jia Yinyu's mind. She looked at Gu Qijue in astonishment and asked uncertainly, You aren't trying to create a god, are you?" Hearing this, Gu Qijue smiled and then pulled Jia Yinyu into his embrace. Inside this crystal palace, the external seawater was sealed off, making the two of them comfortable and relaxed here. However, Gu Qijue only kissed Jia Yinyu once and did not proceed further. It wasn't that he was worried about the Mermaid Emperor and the others returning, but rather that Gu little fish was currently staring intently at her adoptive father and mother. She seemed extremely curious about the current actions of Gu Qijue and Jia Yinyu. Gu Qijue naturally couldn't corrupt the child. So after kissing Jia Yinyu, he said, "That's right." Now that he possessed an even more powerful trump card, he could tell Jia Yinyu about his ability to create gods. Of course, he could only tell Jia Yinyu and a very small number of others. Even though he had admitted it personally, Jia Yinyu still couldn't figure out what method he would use to create a god. However, Jia Yinyu did not ask this question. It was not her place to ask. Jia Yinyu was undoubtedly a sensible and intelligent woman, and such beautiful, smart women were Gu Qijue's favorites. Gu Qijue pondered for a moment, then said to Gu Little Fish, "Little Fish, go watch your little brother and make sure he doesn't cause any trouble." Hearing this, Gu Little Fish naturally didn't realize that Gu Qijue was intentionally sending her away. She bowed slightly to Gu Qijue and said, "As you command, your daughter will go now." After speaking, she went outside the crystal palace and entered the seawater. Her beautiful fishtail swayed, and she quickly left the crystal palace. After Gu Little Fish left, Gu Qijue's powerful demonic power instantly enveloped the entire crystal palace. Jia Yinyu didn't understand what Gu Qijue intended to do at first. Seeing this scene, how could she not know? She immediately rushed to speak. "Don't mess around, this is still within the territory of the South Heng domain," Gu Qijue said carelessly. "How can helping you quickly cultivate and grow be considered messing around? I am the head of state." Jia Yinyu frowned slightly and pleaded, "Let me consolidate my strength first, Your Excellency, the head of state, before helping me grow again." Being able to purify her bloodline and continuously achieve growth and enhancement was, of course, an excellent thing. But Gu Qijue was truly too vigorous. Who could handle it continuously? Yet, even if Jia Yinyu couldn't handle it, she had to silently endure, as a great war was imminent, and insufficient strength would be extremely dangerous on the battlefield. Therefore, Gu Qijue decided that for the next few days, he would continuously help Jia Yinyu purify her bloodline. While the entire South Heng Sea was plunged into battle, the battle between Gu Qijue and Jia Yinyu also began. However, the battle between the other creatures of the South Heng Sea and the Dragon Blood Demon clan was a life-and-death struggle. Both sides would ultimately end in mutual destruction. The battle between Gu Qijue and Jia Yinyu, however, would end with the great beauty Jia Yinyu weeping and begging for mercy. Although there were many powerful races in the South Heng Sea, but once Gu Qijue appeared, these powerful races were nothing more than ants. Large amounts of precious materials were continuously obtained by Gu Qijue, coupled with the materials acquired by the Infinite Group in the Ice Soul domain. The advanced resources he had accumulated were already enough to create a god. However, Gu Qijue still had a very important question to consider. What should be done with the Dragon Blood Demon clan in the South Heng Sea? Should they be left permanently in the South Heng Sea? Or should he take them back to the Ice Soul domain with him? Taking 2 million members of the Dragon Blood Demon clan back to the Ice Soul domain was a relatively dangerous matter. The demigods of the Four Domains Alliance couldn't do much to him, but they could take their anger out on the Dragon Blood Demon clan. If he were to be tied down by other powerful experts, the Dragon Blood Demon clan would suffer greatly. The best solution was clearly to leave the Dragon Blood Demon clan in the South Heng Sea. However, he couldn't simply leave them in the South Heng Sea. He also had to leave Gu Qijue behind to provide them protection. As long as the demigods of the Four Domains Alliance hadn't lost their minds, they wouldn't rashly make enemies and attack one demigod peak and 3 other demigods in the South Heng Sea when the situation was unclear. Although he said this, Gu Qijue was still worried that some accident might occur. But currently, he had no other better solution. After an unknown amount of time passed, Jia Yinyu finally escaped Gu Qijue's clutches once again. Her strength had been enhanced once more. Her bloodline had also been purified again, but she felt as if her entire body had been tormented almost to the point of falling apart. This made Jia Yinyu reluctant to return to the Ice Soul domain with Gu Qijue, as she would surely be harassed again on the way back. Seeing Jia Yinyu's pitiful appearance, Gu Qijue grumbled, "Isn't this all for the sake of helping you grow and improve quickly? Look at Tian Yue demigod. After she became a demigod, did I still purify her bloodline every few days?" Hearing this, Jia Yinyu naturally could not argue, because the actual situation was indeed so. After clan chief Tian Yue became a demigod, Gu Qijue no longer sought her out frequently. 171, we're missing a crucial ingredient, moon essence. Jia Yinyu immediately made up her mind to become a demigod as soon as possible. In the past, She was somewhat worried about other women competing for Gu Qijue's favor. Now, she hoped that several great beauties would quickly appear to help her share the unbearable love from Gu Qijue. Half a day later, Gu Qijue, the Mermaid Emperor, and the others returned one after another. The numerous Dragon Blood Demon clan members had already eliminated or enslaved all other 10,000 races in the South Hang Sea. Of course, only a few were enslaved, most were swiftly wiped out. This allowed the Dragon Blood Demon clan members to earn a fortune, and they brought back many of the materials Gu Qijue needed. After the Mermaid Emperor handed the advanced materials Gu Qijue requested to him, Gu Qijue also spoke, saying, "For the next period, I will have Qidong remain here to oversee things. None of you should easily leave the South Hang Sea. Soon, the Emperor Star Allied forces will occupy the Heavenly Wolf Domain, South Hang Domain, Flying Eagle Domain, and Quicksand Domain. You all should recuperate in the South Hang Sea and await my command." Upon hearing Gu Qijue, the Mermaid Emperor and the others bowed and accepted their orders. Gu Qidong also bowed and accepted his orders, but he still made a small request. "Godfather, can Big Sister stay in the South Hang Sea to play with me?" Gu Qidong's heart nature was similar to that of a 4- or 5-year-old child, and in some aspects, even slightly inferior. This time, Gu Qijue and Jia Yinyu were both leaving. If Gu Littlefish also left, he wouldn't have anyone particularly familiar around. After a moment of thought, Gu Qijue nodded, "All right. But you must protect Big Sister well." Gu Qidong immediately bowed and saluted, "Your child obeys." At this point, Gu Qijue's mission in the South Hang Domain was completely finished. Next, he would take Jia Yinyu back to the Ice Soul Domain to begin god-making. Their return to the Ice Soul Domain was even easier than their journey to the South Hang Domain. On the way back, both were familiar with the route. Gu Qijue held Jia Yinyu in his arms, constantly traversing the Void Realm, heading back towards the Ice Soul Domain. Because his large hands were quite restless, Jia Yinyu had to swat his hand every few moments, telling him to restrain himself. In the past, Gu Qijue would only engage in intimate gestures with her in a safe environment. Now, he was bolder, doing it anytime. Anywhere, Gu Qijue was actually just teasing Jia Yinyu. He didn't really intend to do anything to her. Besides, Jia Yinyu was already one of his wives. So what was wrong with being intimate? As they shattered the Void Realm to travel, Gu Qijue simultaneously gave instructions to Jia Yinyu. "After we return, you will inform the other major groups and forces about the intelligence we gathered in the South Hang Domain. I need to return to the Infinite Group to complete the god-making plan. Do not reveal anything about the god-making plan to anyone for now." "Understood." Jia Yinyu's beautiful eyes rolled and she deliberately said, "I don't understand." She was, of course, joking with Gu Qijue, so Gu Qijue held her delicate face, which was as smooth as blown silk, and kissed her several times, making her behave. The two soon returned to the Ice Soul Domain, and Jia Yinyu, obeying Gu Qijue's command, organized another pre-war meeting. Gu Qijue, meanwhile, returned to the Infinite Group's floating base headquarters to begin god-making. When this moment finally arrived, Gu Qijue felt a bit dazed. Not long ago, he had just barely completed a demigod creation plan in this very place. How long had it been? And he could already create gods with the help of the Infinite Engine. Gu Qijue felt both anticipation and emotion in his heart. As he expected, the materials the Infinite Group acquired from various sources, coupled with the large quantity of materials he had accumulated, along with the advanced materials he obtained in the South Hang Sea, and all the demigod crystal cores in his possession, all these materials combined were just enough to create a deity. All these materials combined were just enough to create a deity. All these materials combined were just enough to create a deity. Normally, god-making should prioritize combat power and practicality. However, after obtaining the legacy of the Blood Dragon God and possessing the fourth combat form, Gu Qijue decided not to prioritize combat power or practicality, but rather beauty and figure. He wanted to create not a deity purely for combat, but a true goddess who could be a wife. Buzz, with a thought from Gu Qijue. The list of deities that could be created from the numerous materials in his hand appeared at this moment. All his advanced materials only satisfied 7 god-making schemes. The most painful part was that out of these 7 god-making schemes, 6 were for male deities and only 1 was for a female deity. Even more painfully, the appearance of that female deity resembled a male deity. At this moment, Gu Qijue almost wanted to curse. He had worked so hard on this trip just to use the Infinite Engine to create a goddess wife. Now this is what he gets? What's the point? If it were other matters, he might have settled, but this kind of matter clearly couldn't be settled for. Gu Qijue immediately began to check which materials were still missing for creating a beautiful goddess. After looking around, Gu Qijue settled on a goal: to create the moon goddess, also known as Luna. On one hand, it was, of course, because the moon goddess was incredibly beautiful and pretty, with eyes that seemed to hold endless tenderness, like water flowing through pupils. On the other hand, although he was still missing quite a few materials to create the moon goddess, the vast majority of materials could be acquired by the infinite group, even if they couldn't be acquired directly. Lower-grade materials could be bought and synthesized into advanced materials using the infinite engine. Only one rare material, called lunar soul, was difficult to obtain. Lunar soul is a special treasure left behind after the demise of a planetary will of a moon-like planet. Even Gu Qijue had never obtained such a thing. However, he now ruled over 4 territories: Emperor Star, Tianheng Domain, Ice Soul Domain, and Black Wind Domain. With so many living beings across these 4 territories, surely it wouldn't be impossible to obtain a single lunar soul. Just as Jai Yinyu and the others finished their meeting, everyone received news that head of state Gu Qijue of Emperor Star was acquiring lunar soul. It was a pity, however, that such a treasure was simply too rare. Planets like the moon are too small to easily give birth to planetary wills, and after a planetary will perishes, it often completely dissipates, leaving nothing behind. Situations where a lunar soul is left behind are exceedingly rare. However, someone Gu Qijue had almost forgotten excitedly arrived with a lunar soul. Gu Qijue never would have imagined that this person would possess a lunar soul. This person was none other than the old medicine emperor of Tianheng Domain. This old fellow was currently stuck at the imperial rank stage, unable to progress, and the price Gu Qijue offered for the lunar soul was to help him become a demigod. Fortunately, the old medicine emperor was controlled by his spiritual imprint. Otherwise, he truly wouldn't have wanted to give this opportunity to become a demigod to the old medicine emperor. As Gu Qijue took the lunar soul from the old medicine emperor's hand, he also handed a spatial device to him and said, "Take the infinite crystal stone and other advanced resources inside here to cultivate. If you use it all up and still can't break through to demigod, I will give you more later." 172. The moon goddess's only request with the moon Numa in hand. It meant that all the materials Gu Qijue needed for god creation were completely ready. He no longer hesitated and immediately began god creation. The major groups and organizations of the Emperor Star Alliance also held emergency meetings at this time to discuss countermeasures. The upcoming war might be different from the previous few. Although the Emperor Star Alliance wanted to concentrate its forces for a decisive battle against the enemy. The combined armies of the 4 domains, Heavenly Wolf Domain, South Heng Domain, Flying Eagle Domain, and Quicksand Domain, did not play by the rules. They were not planning to concentrate their forces for a single front operation, but rather preparing for a 2-pronged attack. A portion of the 4-domain combined army would launch an attack on the Emperor Star Alliance from the Heavenly Wolf Domain. The other portion of the 4-domain combined army was preparing to attack the Emperor Star Alliance from the South Heng Domain. The Emperor Star Alliance had only 2 choices, either a 2-front offensive or a comprehensive defense, although they could also choose to attack along one route and defend along the other. However, this would not leverage Emperor Star's advantages, so such a strategic deployment would generally not be adopted. While the various powerhouses of Emperor Star were experiencing quite a headache, Gu Qijue did not feel the slightest pressure. His adopted son, Gu Qijue, possessed the mighty power of a demigod peak. Although he himself was only at the demigod 5th layer realm, he could easily sweep aside opponents within the same realm. Furthermore, he had successfully grasped his 4th combat form. Under the 4th combat form, he could utilize the power of the blood dragon god sealed within his body to a great extent. Even ordinary true gods were not his match. For the CEOs of the major Emperor Star groups and the leaders of the various factions, the upcoming battle would be extremely difficult. For Gu Qijue, the upcoming battle was merely a training exercise, unless the enemy deployed a deity. The 4-domain combined army had now gathered a large number of demigods and numerous conventional combat troops, but no deities were participating in the war. The Shenhuang continent, Southeast continent plate, possessed deities and more than just one, but these deities were all focused on cultivation, striving for a higher realm. Even if the Southeast continent plate was turned upside down by fighting, as long as it didn't affect the cultivation of these deities, they wouldn't interfere. At this moment, Gu Qijue did not delve into whether or not there were deities in the Southeast continent plate. He had already appeared in his own office at the Infinite Group floating base, carrying out a very important task, God creation. In fact, not much time had passed since he manufactured the demigod Victoria until now, but his progress was astonishing. Back then, he could only create demigods, but now he could create genuine deities. After everything was ready, Gu Qijue gave the Infinite Engine an instruction in his mind. Begin God creation? Buzz. As soon as his voice fell, the Infinite Engine quickly started operating. The matter of God creation was extremely high-end, and not something ordinary people could afford to play with. The large amount of previous accumulation was mostly depleted for this instance of God creation. However, this was absolutely worth it. If those materials were used elsewhere, they would simply be gone. If used for God creation, on one hand, he could gain another goddess wife, and on the other hand, he could gain a powerful helper. The one Gu Qijue created this time was the goddess of the moon. This was an extremely tall and beautiful woman wearing a snow-white gauze dress, whose skin rivaled frost and snow. Her features were extremely delicate without the slightest flaw. She had a mass of light golden, wavy long hair, casually draped behind her. She wore a beautiful crystal goddess crown on her head and held a crystal staff in her hand. The moon goddess's name was Elizabeth. Her initial strength was God rank first layer, placing her in the upper tier among deities of the same rank. Gu Qijue was currently waiting patiently for the Infinite Engine to help him create this beautiful goddess wife. Approximately 2 hours later, the Infinite Engine's God creation process finally concluded. Buzz, a cluster of shimmering white light appeared before Gu Qijue. From this shimmering white light, a beautiful goddess wearing crystal shoes gracefully walked out. She was graceful and charming, with beauty beyond compare. After the moon goddess appeared, she spoke in a gentle and pleasant voice. The moon goddess pays respects to your excellency, the head of state, Gu Qijue casually replied. Dispense with the formalities. As he spoke, he was also carefully examining the moon goddess before him, who was as perfect as a work of art. Jai Tianyu, Jai Yinyu, and the demigod Victoria were all extremely beautiful, but the moon goddess was like the incarnation of beauty itself. Her looks were in a league of their own. After Gu Qijue sat down very casually on the sofa. He waved at the moon goddess, signaling her to sit on his lap. The moon goddess hesitated slightly before speaking. Your Excellency, the head of state, as my creator, I will obey your commands 100%. However, I possess normal emotions and thoughts. If you wish to enter into a relationship with me, I hope we can be emotionally equal, not a master-servant relationship. Otherwise, what you will receive is merely a beautiful puppet, not a beautiful and virtuous wife. Hearing her words, Gu Qijue was repeatedly surprised. He only knew that the other party would obey his commands 100%, but he hadn't expected this possibility. It seems divine rank life forms are indeed different from intelligent life forms below the divine rank. Despite this, Gu Qijue seemed to like this moon goddess with subjective emotions and thoughts even more. Just as the moon goddess said, what he wanted was a beautiful and virtuous wife, not a pretty puppet. Gu Qijue thought for a moment and said, then how can I make the moon goddess become my beautiful and virtuous wife? The moon goddess had long anticipated that Gu Qijue might ask this question. Therefore, after Gu Qijue asked, she replied, it's very simple. Your Excellency, the head of state, must either surpass me in rank or surpass me in strength. If Your Excellency, the head of state, cannot surpass me in either rank or strength, then I hope Your Excellency will not engage in any emotional interaction with me. After listening to the moon goddess, Gu Qijue couldn't help but laugh inwardly. The moon goddess only knew that he had created her using the Infinite Engine, but she didn't know how strong he truly was. In the moon goddess's eyes, he might just be an ant at the demigod 5th layer, unworthy of possessing the moon goddess's body and soul. Since that was the case, he had no choice but to teach the moon goddess a lesson. It just so happened that he also wanted to see exactly how strong he was now. As the moon goddess stared at Gu Qijue with her beautiful, limpid eyes, Gu Qijue smiled and nodded. He then casually said, come with me. Let's find a place to spar. Gu Qijue decided not to fight on his own turf. He wasn't prepared to reveal the moon goddess as a trump card until the enemy deployed deities. The moon goddess sighed faintly in her heart. Although Gu Qijue was a demigod rank life form, he was still influenced by life's primal desires, making him so impatient to possess her. 173. Blood Dragon God. Transcendent God rank? The moon goddess did not intend to go easy during this spar. Not only did she refuse to hold back, but she also planned to severely teach Gu Qijue a lesson, making him stop lusting after her body. Gu Qijue didn't know that his previous behavior was so obvious that the moon goddess wanted to teach him a good lesson. Unfortunately, since he possessed 4 combat forms, the moon goddess was destined to be thoroughly taught a lesson by him, from body to soul. The two tore through space and traveled to a vast, boundless, uninhabited area. The place was completely desolate. 1,000 mountains. No birds fly, 10,000 paths, no human tracks remain. The battle between the 2 divine rank life forms here would not be known by anyone. Above the 9 heavens, the moon goddess and Gu Qijue stood proudly in the air. The moon goddess held a crystal staff, her long, wavy hair dancing in the wind. Gu Qijue's expression was very relaxed. His half-god realm was very misleading, but he truly didn't possess only half-god strength. The moon goddess slightly parted her cherry lips and spoke in a still extremely gentle voice. "Your Excellency, the head of state, I cannot harm your life, but I can inflict a certain degree of damage upon you. You should be worried about this spar. When the infinite engine created the moon goddess, it imposed some initial restrictions on her. For instance, she must obey Gu Qijue's commands 100% and can never harm his life. Outside of sparring practice, she couldn't even make a move against Gu Qijue. However, in the sparring and practice state, she was allowed to inflict a certain degree of injury upon Gu Qijue." Hearing the moon goddess's words, Gu Qijue chuckled inwardly. The moon goddess currently looked as if she had him completely figured out. He wondered what her expression would be like after he revealed his true strength later. Gu Qijue smiled and said to the moon goddess, "Let's begin." The moment his voice fell, the moon goddess immediately rushed toward him from the distance, holding her crystal staff. Swoosh! With a swing of the crystal staff in her hand, a crescent light blade suddenly slashed toward Gu Qijue. This was an attack from a true deity, and its power was terrifying. If it were an ordinary half-god, they might even be severely wounded or instantly killed. In Gu Qijue's hand, however, the thunder battle saber materialized. Boom! As the crescent light blade suddenly struck, he decisively slashed out with his saber. Crack! The crescent light blade was easily shattered by Gu Qijue, but his body retreated 5 consecutive steps in midair before he stabilized himself. Even a powerful life form at the half-god peak still had a gap compared to a deity. However, Gu Qijue didn't care. He shook his slightly numb arm and chose to launch an offensive. The moon goddess's previous strike was a test of Gu Qijue's actual strength. After realizing that Gu Qijue was even more formidable than she had imagined, she decided to increase the difficulty for him. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. This time, 3 crescent light blades directly slashed toward Gu Qijue with even faster speed and greater power. These 3 crescent light blades did not arrive simultaneously, but successively. Even if Gu Qijue could forcefully shatter the first one and barely shatter the second, he would still suffer a loss when the 3rd crescent light blade struck. But at this moment, Gu Qijue's appearance changed instantly. Roar! Suddenly, terrifying dragon might surged from him, sweeping and spreading in all directions. His appearance instantly transformed. A long dragon tail appeared behind him, and 2 black dragons grew out from his back. His clump of grayish-white long hair cascaded down his back like a waterfall, and a blood spear appeared in his hand. At this moment, his strength actually reached the god rank, specifically around the god rank 4th stage. Swoosh! The blood spear in his hand lightly thrust out, and immediately it destroyed the 3 crescent light blades, shattering them into dust in an instant. The next moment, the moon goddess saw an even more terrifying sight: complete dragon transformation. Gu Qijue intentionally wanted to teach the moon goddess a lesson, preparing to completely conquer this beautiful goddess both physically and in soul. Therefore, after the 2nd combat form, he immediately activated the complete dragon transformation, which was his 3rd combat form. A black dragon instantly swiped a claw down toward the moon goddess. A moon wheel immediately rose around the moon goddess, attempting to block Gu Qijue's strike, but under the 3rd combat form, Gu Qijue's strength had surged from god rank 4th stage all the way to peak god rank great perfection. Even if he only used a casual swipe, it was simply something the moon goddess could not resist. That bright moon wheel was effortlessly shattered into nothingness by Gu Qijue's casual swipe. The gigantic dragon claw easily captured the moon goddess in its grasp. However, this was not the end, because in the very next moment, an ancient, desolate, vast, and immense power suddenly awakened within Gu Qijue's body. The super god rank power, which left the moon goddess dumbfounded, also appeared on Gu Qijue at this moment. The black dragon from before transformed into a blood dragon god seated upon a throne. His mighty power surpassed the limit of deities. Entering the super god rank domain, The moon goddess was both shocked and depressed. Gu Qijue was going too far, even if he was feigning weakness to lure the enemy. There was no need to hide his strength so deeply. If she had known Gu Qijue was a terrifying existence at the super god rank, how could she have said those things before? As a deity, she had clearly been severely played by this bad guy. Gu Qijue, buzz, waves of power slowly subsided. The massive phantom image of the blood dragon god slowly vanished. The moon goddess, who was breathtakingly beautiful, was now held in Gu Qijue's embrace. At this moment, the moon goddess's exquisite, beautiful face wore an expression of utter despair. Gu Qijue had clearly only hugged her, yet judging by her expression, it was as if he had done something intolerable to heaven's laws to her. This time, Gu Qijue didn't waste words. He held his newly added goddess wife from his harem, gave her a fierce kiss, and then brought the moon goddess back to the infinite group's floating base. On the way back, he also told the moon goddess, "Normally, you only need to display half-god strength. Don't casually reveal divine rank power." Although the moon goddess looked utterly despairing, she nodded seriously when Gu Qijue spoke to her. Immediately afterward, the power on her body also changed from god rank 1st stage to half-god 5th stage, the same as Gu Qijue. After bringing the moon goddess back to the infinite group's floating base, Gu Qijue's voice echoed throughout the entire Ice Soul domain. "All half-gods, great emperors, and quasi-emperors, report to the Supreme Conference Hall tomorrow morning for a pre-war meeting." The last time Gu Qijue held a combat meeting, he didn't allow the quasi-emperors to participate. This time, the quasi-emperors were allowed to attend the pre-war meeting. In the upcoming battles, the fighting involving quasi-emperors, great emperors, and half-gods will be considered high-end combat power. Battles below the quasi-emperor level will be considered conventional battlefield combat. To boost the confidence of everyone in the Emperor Star Alliance, he planned to let them meet the moon goddess from his harem. With a deity guarding their side, everyone would essentially have nothing to fear. 174. The penultimate conquest battle the Emperor Star Alliance. Major corporations, leaders of various hegemonic forces, and the remaining great emperors and quasi-emperors all arrived at the Supreme Council Hall at the appointed time. They all knew that the head of state Gu Qijue of Emperor Star definitely had something very important to announce today. But none of them could have imagined what kind of powerful being Gu Qijue would introduce to everyone today. Ice Soul Domain. Emperor Star Alliance, Supreme Council Hall. Head of State Gu Qijue of Emperor Star sat in the main seat. Below him were Vice Head of State Dai Qi Demigod and Vice Head of State Jai Tianyue Demigod. Further down was the black-clothed youth, the manifestation of the Emperor Star Will, who was naturally also a demigod. Beside him was Victoria, demigod of the Infinite Group. Besides these 4 demigods, there were also Dao Taihuang demigod, Gu Yang's demigod, Bei Qingshan demigod, and Old Medicine Emperor. That's right, with the help of massive resources, Old Medicine Emperor had also become a demigod. Furthermore, Gu Yinling, the adopted son of Gu Qijue, had also become a demigod. Apart from the 9 individuals mentioned above, there was one more demigod who achieved his status through his own effort and powerful talent, Zhan Wushuang demigod. This person did not belong to any corporation or hegemonic force. He was a solitary powerhouse. When Emperor Star waged war against Tianheng Domain, he was only a quasi-emperor. But during the long campaign, he clearly obtained many opportunities. Now, he had grown from a quasi-emperor to a great emperor, and then from a great emperor to a demigod. This meant that the Emperor Star Alliance now possessed a total of 11 demigods, excluding Gu Qijue, the adopted son of Gu Qijue. Of course, Gu Qijue could also be excluded. His second combat form already possessed god rank power, allowing him to be counted as a deity. The Emperor Star Alliance was truly rich in talent now. They had 2 divine rank combatants, and if necessary, could even field 1 super divine rank combatant. Including Gu Qijue, they possessed 11 demigods. As for great emperors, there were over 100, and the number of quasi-emperors exceeded 500. Despite this, the members of the Emperor Star Alliance were still not entirely optimistic. Vice Head of State Jai Tianyu of Emperor Star spoke first, based on the intelligence provided by Jai Yinyu Demon Emperor, combined with information gathered by various corporations and forces. The 4 Domains Alliance has gathered approximately 20-odd demigods and an elite cultivator army of about 300 billion, intending to fight us on 2 fronts. If nothing unexpected happens, in the Heavenly Wolf Domain battlefield, there will be over 10 demigods and 150 billion elite cultivators fighting us. The situation is similar in the South Hang Domain battlefield. Your Excellency, the head of state, what are your operational deployments? After Jai Tianyu asked, everyone in the Supreme Council Hall turned their gaze toward Gu Qijue. They all wanted to know what strategic adjustments Chief Gu would make in response to the Four Domains Alliance's strategic deployment. When everyone looked at him, Gu Qijue smiled and immediately said, "Before discussing my strategic deployment, I must first introduce everyone to the Infinite Group's new member, Moon Goddess." As his voice fell, everyone looked bewildered, because they truly couldn't understand why Gu Qijue was introducing a new member of the Infinite Group at such a critical juncture. But everyone soon understood why Gu Qijue did this. A door behind Gu Qijue slowly opened. Then, a cold, noble, and breathtakingly beautiful woman appeared before everyone. Gu Qijue was certainly not trying to show off the Moon Goddess's beauty, but rather her strength. Thus, in the next moment, a divine rank pressure enveloped the entire Supreme Council Hall. When this divine rank pressure swept across the hall, the entire Supreme Council Hall instantly fell into dead silence. At this moment, everyone was completely stunned. Whether it was Dai Qi demigod, Jai Tianyue demigod, or Gu Yang's, Dao Taihuang, Zhan Wushuang, Bei Qingshan, and the others, everyone was dumbfounded. Staring blankly at Gu Qijue and the Moon Goddess beside him, their eyes filled with shock, it took a while before everyone recovered from their shock. Hiss, suddenly. Countless people from all directions gasped in shock. They racked their brains but couldn't have imagined that the Infinite Group possessed a trump card of this level. A deity? They had seen a true deity. The moment they saw the deity, the members of the Emperor Star Alliance understood that they didn't need any strategic deployment anymore. With a deity on their side, their attack on the Four Domains Alliance would be a dimensionality reduction strike. After everyone gradually recovered from their shock, Gu Qijue spoke again. In this campaign against the Four Domains Alliance, victory is firmly within our grasp. However, before the enemy fields a deity, I do not plan to deploy divine rank combat units. In this operation, we will also attack on two fronts. 10 demigods will head to the Heavenly Wolf Domain battlefield, I, the head of state, along with the 3 demigods of the Dragon Blood Demon clan who recently submitted to the Emperor Star Alliance, and my other adopted son, will handle the demigods in the South Hang Domain. Moon Goddess will be responsible for guarding the Emperor Star headquarters in the Ice Soul Domain, preventing other forces from launching a surprise attack. No one had any objections to Gu Qijue's strategic arrangement. With divine rank combat power, victory was firmly within their grasp. They would win no matter how they fought. Unless the Four Domains Alliance could also summon divine rank combat power, they simply weren't qualified to compete. The members of the Four Domains Alliance naturally had no idea what kind of great gift the Emperor Star Alliance had prepared for them. They were currently preparing to rely on their supposed quantitative and qualitative advantages to inflict a heavy blow on the Emperor Star Alliance. After the strategic deployment, meeting in the Supreme Council Hall concluded. The presidents of the major corporations and the leaders of all forces began preparations for the upcoming operation. One day later, the voice of the head of state Gu Qijue of Emperor Star echoed throughout the entire Ice Soul Domain. I am Gu Qijue, head of Emperor Star. This battle will be the Emperor Star Alliance's penultimate campaign to conquer the southeast sector of the Shenhuang continent. In this battle, the Emperor Star Alliance has 200 billion combat troops participating. Our enemy claims to have 300 billion elite cultivators. They will be your whetstone, the flames that allow you to achieve nirvana. As with every battle before, victory belongs to us, belongs to the Emperor Star Alliance. We shall return laden with glory. Emperor Star. 10,000 victories. As Gu Qijue's voice fell, the approximately 200 billion combat troops of the Emperor Star Alliance erupted in loud cheers. Emperor Star, 10,000 victories. Emperor Star, 10,000 victories. Emperor Star, 10,000 victories. After everyone finished speaking, the spatial teleportation devices immediately began to operate. The 200 billion combat troops of Emperor Star entered the spatial teleportation devices one after another. Before long, massive numbers of Emperor Star combat troops appeared overwhelmingly in the Heavenly Wolf Domain battlefield and the South Hang Domain battlefield. 175. The decisive moment, the end of the Four Domain Alliance. In the battle between the Emperor Star Alliance and the Four Domains Alliance, the Emperor Star Alliance was brimming with confidence, certain of their victory. Interestingly, the cultivator army of the Four Domains Alliance thought the same. The confidence of Emperor Star's 200 billion combat troops stemmed from the divine rank powerhouse, moon goddess, and the head of state Gu Qijue of Emperor Star, whose strength was unknown. Indeed, in the eyes of the presidents of Emperor Star's major corporations and the leaders of its dominant forces today, Gu Qijue was considered a powerhouse of unknown strength. Apart from Moon Goddess, no one knew how strong Gu Qijue truly was. In the view of Jai Tianyue demigod, Dao Tehuang demigod, and others, Gu Qijue should have already achieved divinity. If he hadn't achieved divinity, why would Moon Goddess defer to him? This question, of course, was not difficult to answer. Moon Goddess was subdued by Gu Qijue, first subdued, then conquered, a comprehensive conquest from body to soul. The strong confidence of the Four Domains Alliance was due to multiple reasons. Firstly, their actual military strength was nearly 400 billion combat troops. This was an incredibly terrifying number, but the Emperor Star Alliance only believed they possessed 300 billion combat troops. Secondly, they had received a large number of demigods supported by the Five Domains Alliance and some other regions, and all of this was done in secret. Their sole objective was to make the Emperor Star Alliance pay an unprecedentedly heavy price in this battle. Unfortunately, no matter how many schemes they had, Emperor Star could break them with a divine spirit. Therefore, the Four Domains Alliance's confidence could only be considered celebrating halfway through the game, or even before the game. Gu Qijue didn't know how the battle in Heavenly Wolf Domain was progressing. He was now leading 100 billion combat troops, marching majestically towards the South Heng Domain battlefield. On the South Heng Domain battlefield, the preparations of the Four Domains allied army were very thorough. The Emperor Star Alliance had already swept through and occupied Tianheng Domain, Ice Soul Domain, and Black Wind Domain. Under such circumstances, if they still thought Emperor Star was easy to deal with, they would be deluding themselves. But this time, the Four Domains Alliance used the strategy of repairing the plank road overtly while secretly crossing the Chengkang Pass. And it was a scheme within a scheme. They first amassed a large army in Heavenly Wolf Domain, releasing false information, making the Emperor Star Alliance mistakenly believe that they would fight a decisive battle with the Emperor Star Alliance in Heavenly Wolf Domain. But in reality, they intended to wage a two-front war with the Emperor Star Alliance. Not only that, while fighting a two-front war with the Emperor Star Alliance, they also sought external assistance to the greatest extent possible, whether it was the Five Domains Alliance or other more distant forces. They had all provided assistance during this period. Currently, the Four Domains Alliance, both in terms of high-end combat power and conventional combat power, was twice that of the Emperor Star Alliance. Both sides consisted of elites, and they had a twofold numerical advantage. In any battlefield, in any battle, they had the advantage of 2 against 1. No matter what, they had no possibility of losing this war. Gu Qijue stood proudly in the air above the 9 heavens of South Heng Domain. Below, 100 billion combat troops from Emperor Star's major corporations and top-tier forces were continuously appearing. 100 billion combat troops, overwhelming the sky and earth. Everywhere, the Four Domains allied army opposite them was even more numerous, exactly double their size. All spaces from all directions above and below were filled with the combat troops of both sides. On the Four Domains Alliance side, the person in charge in South Heng Domain was demigod Tianying. This was an old man with incredibly gloomy eyes and a face so dark it seemed to drip water. Wearing a pitch-black cloak, he looked at Gu Qijue with cold eyes and asked, "Chief Gu, why have you come here to seek death?" Demigod Tianying was extremely confident and arrogant, spouting wild words from the start. Gu Qijue naturally couldn't let the reputation of the Emperor Star Alliance fall. He moved, appearing in front of demigod Tianying in an instant. The numerous combatants from both sides clearly didn't expect Gu Qijue to suddenly attack. Not only them, but demigod Tianying didn't expect it either. Moreover, it was an old tradition to exchange harsh words before the start of a battle. Gu Qijue shouldn't have directly made a move after just a few words from him. Boom! Although Gu Qijue only threw a punch in his first combat form, his terrifying power at demigod 5th level still sent demigod Tianying, who was at demigod 7th level, flying back, spitting blood. This scene was quite a slap in the face. Not long ago, demigod Tianying had been clamoring that Gu Qijue was coming here to seek his own death. Yet, in a blink, Gu Qijue made him spit blood. This scene was both absurd and comical. After demigod Tianying was sent flying by Gu Qijue's punch, another demigod flew out from the Four Domains Alliance. This person was demigod Liusha, a peak demigod powerhouse with extremely formidable strength. After he appeared, he spoke to the combatants of the Four Domains Allied Army, Cultivator Army of the Four Domains Alliance. Listen to my command. Annihilate all invading enemies from the Emperor Star Alliance, leave no one alive, kill them, as his voice fell. The 200 billion combat troops of the Four Domains Alliance all sprang into action. These 200 billion combat troops were basically all elites, with very few imposters. On the Emperor Star Alliance side, approximately 100 billion combat troops did not act immediately, but were waiting for someone. They didn't wait long before the Dragon Blood Demon clan from South Hengxi arrived. Gu Qijue and Gu Little Fish, along with the Mermaid Emperor and others, flew at the very front. Before long, they all arrived behind Gu Qijue. After they arrived, Gu Qijue also looked at the continuously approaching Cultivator Army of the Four Domains Alliance and said, "All combatants of the Emperor Star Alliance, attention, obey my command. Kill." As Gu Qijue uttered the word kill, the 100 billion combat troops of the Emperor Star Alliance also erupted at this moment. 100 billion combat troops is a very astonishing number. Even though the total number of enemies they faced was twice their own, everyone still wasn't afraid. Under the command of the head of state of Emperor Star, the combat troops of the major corporations and dominant-level forces all plunged into battle. Gu Qijue had told everyone back in Ice Soul Domain. This would be the second-to-last battle for Emperor Star to conquer the southeastern plate of Shenhuang continent. Facts proved that Gu Qijue's judgment was correct. After the two sides truly began to clash, Emperor Star's combat troops discovered the Four Domains Allied Army indeed had a very large number, but their quality was not good at all. The 200 billion Cultivator Army prepared by the Four Domains Alliance this time were indeed elites selected multiple times. They truly didn't expect that the combat personnel of the Emperor Star Alliance would be so astonishingly strong. In a situation of elite against elite, the cultivator elites of the Four Domains Alliance actually couldn't gain any advantage. 176. The overall situation is settled. Half of the southeastern continent is in our hands. Gu Qijue was not prepared to easily intervene in this war between the Emperor Star Alliance and the Four Domains Alliance. He was still curious whether there were divine rank powerhouses in the Southe, a ST Chinese letter of the Shenhuang continent. If the opponent had divine rank powerhouses enter the fray, he wouldn't mind engaging them. However, if the opponent had no divine rank powerhouses, then this battle would end swiftly without any suspense. Things perfectly matched Gu Qijue's judgment. Boom, 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 on the various battlefields where the Emperor Star allied forces were located. The Emperor Star Alliance's technological weapons shone brightly, especially the Infinite Group's technological weapons, which gave the Four Domains Alliance's Cultivator Army a hard time. The elites of the Emperor Star Academy had entered the South Heng Domain battlefield with Gu Qijue this time. At this moment, Lan Zai, clad in top-tier Infinite Group equipment, was slaughtering on the battlefield with the ease of slicing melons and dicing vegetables. Whoosh! With a gentle swing of the light sword in her hand, she cut the magic treasure in the enemy cultivator's hand into pieces. There are three main factors limiting technological progress. First is theoretical accumulation, second is materials, and third is energy. After the Emperor Star Alliance conquered the Tianheng Domain, Ice Soul Domain, and South Heng Domain, the latter two factors were almost perfectly resolved. The perfect resolution of these two factors also promoted the birth of new scientific theories. This led to Emperor Star's current scientific research level being in a spiraling upward trend. As the leading scientific research entity of Emperor Star, the Infinite Group naturally produced a large number of black technology products. The light sword in Lan Zai's hand, emitting a blue glow, was one of Emperor Star's black technologies. That light sword was not a true light sword, but a material with terrifyingly high strength and toughness. It could also release a large amount of energy, destroying the material structure of objects it collided with. This caused the magic treasures of the Four Domains Allied Army cultivators to become as fragile as plastic when facing young Miss Lan Zai's laser sword. Lan Zai quickly took out a second light sword amidst the terrified gazes of the Four Domains Allied Army cultivators. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. With both swords out, Lan Zai continued to slaughter in all directions, as if slicing melons and dicing vegetables. Although the magic treasures in the hands of many cultivators possessed various mysterious and incredible powers, they clearly could not comprehend this method of destroying magic treasures from their microscopic material structure. When many cultivators' magic treasures were cut into pieces by Lan Zai, they could only stare blankly, completely unaware of what was happening. Lan Zai was not the only one with a light sword. Jai Shang also possessed a light sword produced by the Infinite Group. However, his light sword was not a one-handed sword, but a two-handed greatsword. Boom, boom, boom. When Jai Shang engaged the Four Domains Alliance's cultivator army, his attacks were broad and sweeping, charging left and right, constantly sweeping and pushing forward. Compared to Lan Zai and Jai Shang, the Ape Emperor also received brand new equipment custom-made for him. His new equipment might be very cumbersome for other powerhouses, but for the Ape Emperor it was just right, because his new equipment was a heavy artillery exoskeleton. In front of the Ape Emperor there were 4 extremely powerful autocannons, one each above, below, left, and right. In his hands, he controlled 2 even more powerful laser cannons. Behind him, he carried a heavy-duty focused laser cannon, which was terrifyingly powerful. While Lan Zai and Jai Shang were slaughtering in the front, he could provide powerful fire support and suppression for them. Cute Treasure and everyone else basically had their own exclusive equipment. On this battlefield, everyone was shining brightly. However, the most dazzling, of course, was Gu Qijue's terrifying punch at the beginning, which was like destroying the world. The hostile demigods who had been clamoring before had now become timid turtles, not daring to show their faces on the battlefield at all. Besides Gu Qijue, his adopted son, Gu Qijue, also performed very brightly. Gu Qijue was now holding a blood spear, constantly killing the opponent's demigods on the battlefield. The Four Domains Alliance had dispatched a large number of demigods to besiege him, but they were still no match. Gu Qijue's adopted daughter, Gu Little Fish, was acting cute beside Gu Qijue. The little mermaid swayed her beautiful fishtail in midair, looking left and right, as if searching for something interesting. After watching for a while, she obediently came to Gu Qijue and hugged his long leg. Gu Qijue smiled knowingly and reached out to pat his adopted daughter's little head. The Four Domains Alliance's illusion of winning by numbers was undoubtedly completely shattered. Not only that, the Four Domains Alliance truly had not prepared divine rank combat power this time. This meant that their defeat was already sealed. The reason this battle was so easy was mainly due to the help of Gu Qijue and the Infinite Group, which allowed the Emperor Star Alliance to produce a large number of demigods, imperial rank, and quasi-imperial rank. Emperor Star's technology also achieved a leap forward. Furthermore, the most important point was that the leaders of the various forces within the Emperor Star Alliance all knew that their side had a deity and that victory was certain. Therefore, the major groups and forces also became fearless. These 3 advantages combined, the specific performance on the battlefield was a sweeping advance. The elite armies of the Heavenly Wolf Domain, South Heng Domain, Flying Eagle Domain, and Quicksand Domain were swept and pushed back by the Emperor Star Alliance's combat units from the moment the fighting began. Seeing that defeat was inevitable, even without powerhouses like Quicksand Demigod speaking, a large number of cultivators began to retreat in disarray. The Emperor Star Alliance's ability to easily sweep through the Ice Soul Domain and the other 3 domains was clearly not without reason. These people were simply no match for the Emperor Star Alliance. Once defeat appeared, it immediately became a rout. Many cultivators who had been arrogant before were now completely stunned. Everyone dared not linger and fled frantically. Powerhouses like Quicksand Demigod kept roaring, hoping everyone would stabilize their positions. Even if they had to retreat, they couldn't retreat in such a chaotic manner, otherwise, problems would inevitably arise. Gu Qijue, however, would not give them any chance. Although the Four Domains allied army also had no chance of turning the tide. Fire cannons, starships, move out, pursue the fleeing, exterminate them all. After his command was issued, a large number of starships, fire cannons, and overwhelming swarms of loitering munitions rapidly approached the Four Domains allied army like a plague of locusts. Boom, 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 boom. Countless lasers, countless missiles, immense sounds of countless explosions, and an endless stream of huge fireballs continuously fell among the Four Domains allied army. These cultivators once again suffered the retribution of technological might. After cultivators reach a certain realm, they will possess incredibly powerful strength. However, technological weapons, once the first prototype is developed, can be mass-produced, giving them too great an advantage. 177, Ancient Temple. Bloody sacrifice, as countless missiles bombarded the area. A large number of cultivators from the Four Domains Alliance could only surrender unconditionally. Although they still had some trump cards they hadn't had time to use, but seeing the relaxed, confident, and assured demeanor of the Emperor Star allied forces, they understood. The Emperor Star allied forces, like them, also possessed powerful, formidable trump cards that they hadn't used. Rumors had even begun to circulate within the Four Domains Alliance. That is, the Emperor Star Alliance had a divine rank expert presiding over it. It was precisely because they had a divine rank expert who could decisively sway the battlefield that they were so relaxed. These claims were not caused by leaks from the Emperor Star leadership. Instead, they were fabricated by a large number of doves within the Four Domains Alliance who had already surrendered. Although they had surrendered, they still needed to find a reason for their surrender. If outsiders knew that the Emperor Star Alliance possessed divine rank combat power, then others couldn't criticize them even if they surrendered. After all, how much weight did they carry that they would dare challenge a deity? However, these doves would never have imagined that Emperor Star truly did have divine rank experts, and two of them. The battle between the Emperor Star allied forces and the Four Domains Alliance in the South Hang Domain battlefield caused the Five Domains Alliance to panic like never before. The 5 demigods of the Five Domains Alliance were all secretly observing from a corner of the battlefield. After seeing the terrifying strength of the Emperor Star allied forces, Jinyao demigod spoke with an unusually solemn expression. Things have reached this point. We must go to the ancient temple. The southeast continent plate of the Shenhuang continent possesses true deities. These deities usually cultivate and grow in the special space within the ancient temple. Unless there is a matter of great importance, they generally will not appear. Even if all the forces on the southeast continent plate were annihilated, it wouldn't be a major concern for them. Because during the time the ancient temple has existed, countless rulers have been replaced on this land. Powerful forces rapidly rose from obscurity, only to eventually decline from prosperity to ruin over the long ages. These deities within the ancient temple have witnessed too many cycles of rise and fall. They are even older than the world will of every domain, and naturally, more powerful. Asking the deities in the ancient temple for help is not an easy task either. If you want the ancient gods to help, you must offer a sacrifice. The ancient gods require only 2 kinds of sacrifices, a living demigod or a demigod crystal core. This is the reason why Gu Qijue did not acquire many demigod crystal cores in the Ice Soul domain. Over the long ages, many demigod crystal cores have been consumed by the ancient gods in the ancient temple. And experts like Jinyao demigod also had to prepare large quantities of demigod crystal cores to ask the deities in the ancient temple for help at critical moments. Not only did they have large quantities of demigod crystal cores, but they also imprisoned half-dead demigods. 1 half-dead demigod is worth 10 demigod crystal cores. Therefore, many demigods who disappeared were likely imprisoned by Jinyao demigod and others before they vanished completely. Gu Qijue did not know that these old fellows possessed large quantities of demigod crystal cores. Otherwise, the 5 individuals, including Jinyao demigod, would not have been able to simply tour the edge of the battlefield and quickly retreat unscathed. Led by Jinyao demigod, the other 4 top demigods quickly followed him toward the ancient temple. This matter was serious. If no deity took action after the Four Domains Alliance was destroyed, they too would be annihilated. The ancient temple is located in the life-forbidden zone of the southeast continent plate on the Shenhuang continent. Under normal circumstances, no living creature would be active in this area. Any life form below the level of a top demigod that appears here will quickly have its vitality drained away. After bringing along the many demigods imprisoned in various places, Jinyao demigod and the others quickly arrived at the ancient temple. The ancient temple was spacious, majestic, and extremely ancient. Inside, there were only 4 massive deity sculptures in total. Aside from these 4 massive deity sculptures, there were also some broken stone fragments and empty spots. Those broken stone fragments and empty spots represented deities who had already departed or died. Matters concerning the deity level were beyond the comprehension of Jinyao demigod and the others. Fortunately, they didn't need to understand, they just needed the deities to take action. Upon entering the ancient temple, Jinyao demigod threw 10 half-dead demigods onto the altar. Subsequently, the 5 demigods, including Jinyao demigod, began pouring power into the altar. Screams, one after another, immediately erupted from the altar. The 10 demigods being sacrificed seemed to be suffering unimaginable, cruel torment. Their flesh and blood vanished little by little, and soon their still beating hearts slowly became visible. Before long, the hearts and bones also completely decayed. After the 10 demigods on the altar completely vanished, the 4 massive sculptures stirred at that very moment. A majestic, rough, yet extremely cold voice echoed throughout the ancient temple. What happened? The one who spoke was the divine rank expert, Dai Sheng. After Dai Sheng spoke, Jin Yao demigod hastily said, Lord Dai Sheng, something huge has happened. A very formidable outsider has arrived on the southeast continent plate. Out of the 12 domains, 7 have already been occupied by the opponent. The number of quasi-emperors, great emperors, and demigod experts who have died at their hands is countless. The destruction of our remaining 5 domains is only a matter of time. After hearing Jin Yao demigod finish, Dai Sheng asked doubtfully, do they have deities? There was a hint of anticipation in Dai Sheng's tone. Refining demigods offers very limited improvement for them, but if they refine the deities of the opposing force, they would gain massive improvement. After Dai Sheng asked, Jin Yao demigod had a crooked thought and replied, Lord Dai Sheng, we have not seen the opponent's deities take action. However, based on intelligence circulating everywhere, the opponent should have one deity. Hearing this news, Dai Sheng was initially somewhat excited, but he quickly became extremely indifferent. His majestic voice made Jin Yao demigod tremble. If the opponent has a true deity, then forget it. If the opponent does not have a deity, you will pay the price of your life for today's lie. Jin Yao demigod had never expected Dai Sheng to speak like this. At this moment, he instantly regretted his decision deeply. Whether the Emperor Star Alliance truly had a deity was an unsettled matter. They might have one, or they might not. But what if the opponent didn't have a deity? Wouldn't he be doomed? Without giving Jin Yao demigod any chance to retract his words, Dai Sheng continued, I will take action when they approach your territory. Withdraw. As his voice faded, Jin Yao demigod and the other 4 appeared outside the life-forbidden zone. Please give some recommendation tickets. 178. The prophecy of the outbreak of the Divine War when the Emperor Star Alliance first attacked the Shenhuang continent. Perhaps no one could have imagined that Emperor Star could achieve such brilliant military results in such a short time. Compared to the original Emperor Star, the current Emperor Star has undergone earth-shattering changes. The major groups and various forces of Emperor Star have all obtained massive resources that were previously unimaginable. Furthermore, numerous quasi-emperors and great emperors have emerged from these various forces. This was also something that no one dared to imagine in the past. After this great war concluded, Emperor Star seized half of the southeast continent plate of the Shenhuang continent. It is not even just half. Conquering one more domain would result in a situation where they control 2/3 of the territory. By this point, everyone in the Emperor Star Alliance, including the cultivation forces that surrendered to Emperor Star, no longer doubted the wise and mighty leadership of head of state Gu Qijue of Emperor Star. Under Gu Qijue's leadership, the remaining 5 domains alliance would certainly not be their match. The southeast continent plate of the Shenhuang continent is about to usher in an unprecedented state of great unification. Whether it was the people of Emperor Star or the cultivation forces that surrendered to Emperor Star, everyone was waiting for that great moment to arrive. After Emperor Star occupies the entire southeast continent plate, it will gain the qualification to contend for the entire Shenhuang continent. One day, the divine wilderness empire spoken of by head of state Gu Qijue of Emperor Star will no longer be a castle in the air, but will become a reality. If this world only contained Emperor Star and the 9 continent plates of the Shenhuang continent, then Gu Qijue would be very excited after possessing half of the southeast continent plate of the Shenhuang continent. But after receiving the legacy of the blood dragon god, he already knew that the universe was much vaster than anyone imagined, and that there was more than one universe. Therefore, completely conquering the Shenhuang continent was a gratifying matter. But it was not the end of the journey of conquest. Furthermore, because there are more advanced intelligent life forms in the universe, Emperor Star must be wary of falling behind technologically and being destroyed by them. While the entire Emperor Star Alliance was immersed in joy, Gu Qijue had already begun to consider longer-term issues. If the other 8 continent plates of the Shenhuang continent were all solid entities, he might consider cooperating to establish a Shenhuang alliance. Unfortunately, the other 8 continent plates were essentially disorganized and scattered. This necessitated that he quickly conquer the Shenhuang continent and complete the Great Unification. Only by completing the Great Unification and establishing a Shenhuang super empire could all resources be gathered to cultivate high-end talents and promote continuous technological innovation and progress. Unlike the jubilant Emperor Star Alliance, the remaining members of the 4 domains coalition army were currently filled with worry. No one knew where their fate would lead them. At this moment, the combat troops of the Emperor Star Alliance set up large screens throughout Heavenly Wolf Domain, Quicksand Domain, South Heng Domain, and Flying Eagle Domain. On the large screens, the prisoners of the Four Domains Alliance, as well as ordinary people who had not participated in the war, all saw the head of Emperor Star, Gu Qijue. Gu Qijue's voice soon emanated from the screens. Everyone, I am head of state Gu Qijue of Emperor Star. From this moment forward, I will be your supreme ruler. You can choose to embrace hatred and walk towards destruction, or you can choose a new life. The southeast plate of the Shenhuang continent has a total of 12 domains, and the Emperor Star Alliance has now occupied 7 of them. In the next step, the Emperor Star Alliance will continue to attack the 5 Domains Alliance, allowing the southeast continent plate to fully achieve great unification. No matter how many wars have occurred on this land in the past, under the rule of Emperor Star, the sentient beings here will never have a day of infighting. The technology of the Emperor Star Alliance will empower everyone. From now on, the resources on this land will be utilized to the best extent. All sentient beings who recognize the ideals of Emperor Star will obtain the best life. Everyone only needs to look at the current living conditions of the people in Tianheng Domain, Ice Soul Domain, and Black Wind Domain to understand that the words of this head of state are absolutely not false. Gu Qijue stopped speaking at this point, and the many cultivators who were preparing to cause trouble also chose silence at this moment. Emperor Star's journey of conquest resulted in many deaths and consumed vast resources. However, the countless wars, large and small, waged by the major cultivation forces in the past undoubtedly caused more deaths and consumed more resources. If Emperor Star lacked the ability to achieve great unification, then Gu Qijue's words would naturally be empty rhetoric. But the current issue is that Emperor Star does have the ability to achieve great unification, and they are already in the process of doing it. Therefore, many cultivators chose silence. While they could certainly cause some trouble for the Emperor Star Alliance, they could not under any circumstances stop this great trend. Not only them, but perhaps the entire Shenhuang continent will be unable to stop Gu Qijue and Emperor Star's advance in the future. This time, the judgment of these cultivators was correct. After conquering 7 domains, the war headquarters of the Emperor Star Alliance relocated from Ice Soul Domain to South Heng Domain. The reason for this was that South Heng Domain is the center of the entire southeast continent plate. Relocating the war headquarters of the Emperor Star Alliance to this location allowed for better command of operations. After the Great War with the Four Domains Alliance concluded, the combat troops of the Emperor Star Alliance rested as usual. However, the major groups and various forces were currently highly enthusiastic. Everyone in the Emperor Star Alliance was extremely eager to start a decisive battle with the 5 Domains Alliance. Dao Taihuang Demigod, Gu Yang's Demigod, and even Dai Qi Demigod all came to Gu Qijue requesting to join the fight. Not only them, but even Jai Tianyu came. South Heng Domain, Infinite Group Floating Base Headquarters. Top floor. This floor housed the offices of the president of the Infinite Group and head of state Gu Qijue of Emperor Star. Normally, only Gu Qijue was here. This time, Tianyue Demigod came directly to this place. After Jai Tianyu saw Gu Qijue, she spoke, "Your Excellency, the head of state, morale is high now. Let's prepare to launch the next decisive battle." Like everyone else, she wanted to seize the southeast continent plate completely in one go. Once the Emperor Star Alliance occupied the entire southeast continent plate, they would firmly establish themselves on the Shenhuang continent. Moreover, they would instantly become one of the most powerful forces on the Shenhuang continent. In Jai Tianyu's view, now was an excellent opportunity for war. Gu Qijue's idea, however, was different from Jai Tianyu's. He smiled and said, "No hurry. According to the intelligence gathered so far, the southeast continent plate also has divine spirits. If nothing unexpected happens, the next battle will see the outbreak of a true divine war, and Emperor Star must be fully prepared." 179. The second god of the Infinite Group, Jai Tianyu, hadn't expected Gu Qijue to be so certain that a god war would erupt next. Judging from the information they had gathered, it was indeed highly possible that a deity existed in this place, but a god war might not necessarily break out. Moreover, the existence of a deity was highly likely. Not 100% certain. If there was no deity here at all and they delayed their attack, they would definitely miss the opportunity for battle. Therefore, the current problem was that they needed concrete intelligence proving that a deity truly existed here. Jai Tianyu pondered for a moment and said to Gu Qijue, Your Excellency, the head of state. What if there is no deity here? Gu Qijue smiled. That possibility certainly exists, but we must still make thorough preparations. In a while, the infinite group might possess a second divine rank expert. He told Jai Tianyu this news, considering it a way to soothe the fighting spirit of the great beauty. Tianyue, Jai Tianyu was indeed very shocked to hear this news. Her beautiful eyes, which resembled clear autumn water, were filled with an expression of disbelief. Jai Tianyu's first reaction was that she had misheard. Currently, they were still doubting whether there were any divine rank experts on the southeast continent plate of the Shenhuang continent. Yet, the infinite group was about to possess a second divine rank expert of its own. Jai Tianyu immediately asked, Your Excellency, the head of state, may I be so bold as to ask how the infinite group's divine rank expert came to be? Gu Qijue shook his head. No, Jai Tianyu did not mind this answer, because she had already opened her mouth to ask an even more important question. Your Excellency, the head of state, can I become a god? This time, Gu Qijue was somewhat dumbfounded. You still have a long way to go before you can become a god. Currently, Jai Tianyu was only at demigod 2nd tier. If she wanted to become a god, she needed to raise her strength to demigod 9th tier, and then she would need a suitable opportunity to become a god before succeeding. Jai Tianyu naturally understood that Gu Qijue was right. Meals must be eaten bite by bite, and roads must be walked step by step. Not much time had passed since she became a demigod, so considering becoming a god now was indeed too early. In her heart, Jai Tianyu was still very curious about another matter. Your Excellency, the head of state, are you already a deity? Gu Qijue shook his head. My realm is only demigod, but I possess the means to fight deities. He was clearly being very modest when he said this, because in the blood dragon god state, his power could reach the threshold of super divine rank. Even if he couldn't fully unleash the power of the super divine rank, he could still easily crush many deities. Jai Tianyu was extremely envious of Gu Qijue's powerful combat strength, but she also understood that this was something she couldn't achieve just by being envious. However, it wasn't that she couldn't continue to improve. Jai Tianyu quickly smiled radiantly and said to Gu Qijue, Your Excellency, the head of state, could you help me purify my bloodline? Gu Qijue said half-jokingly, I want to help you and Jai Yinyu purify your bloodlines together. Jai Tianyu was not annoyed by his joke, but instead said, Yinyu and I have no problem with that, but I'm afraid Your Excellency, the head of state, won't be able to straighten his back for a long time, thus affecting the subsequent strategic deployment of the Emperor-Star Alliance. Gu Qijue laughed dryly. Don't talk about just you and Jai Yinyu, even if a few more came. It would still be you crying and begging for mercy. Jai Tianyu blinked her beautiful eyes, walked towards Gu Qijue, and said with her cherry lips slightly parted, Is that so? Then I'd like to see if Your Excellency, the head of state, is truly that formidable? Jai Tianyu clearly forgot the pain once the wound healed. She seemed to have completely forgotten the time she cried and begged for mercy in front of Gu Qijue. Although purifying her bloodline made Jai Tianyu a bit overwhelmed, the benefits it brought were also something she could not refuse. After every bloodline purification, her cultivation speed and cultivation progress could both increase slightly. While Gu Qijue was helping them purify their bloodlines, his own power could also be tempered. Not only that, but he also gained immense pleasure from it. In short, the matter of bloodline purification was always a win-win. Gu Qijue's powerful demonic power quickly enveloped and completely shielded his office area. After doing all this, he lifted Jai Tianyu into a princess carry and then pressed a kiss onto her fiery red lips. On the other side, Jai Yinyu finished the tasks at hand and came looking for Gu Qijue. Then she encountered something very frustrating. Someone had beaten her to it. She didn't know if it was clan chief Tianyue or Victoria, or perhaps the moon goddess, but no matter who it was, it made her very angry. The moon goddess was already a deity, while Victoria and clan chief Tianyue were demigods, and she was currently just a poor little thing at Great Emperor 4th tier. Clearly, she was the one who needed Gu Qijue's help the most to grow and improve quickly. Jai Yinyu understood Gu Qijue quite well. If he didn't mess around until the sky turned dark and the earth dim, he definitely wouldn't finish easily. Therefore, she did not wait at the Infinite Group's floating base, but returned to the Tianyue group. Gu Little Fish, however, was unaware of this. After finding that Gu Qijue was refusing visitors and focusing on work, the Little Mermaid waited patiently in the hall downstairs. She didn't actually have anything important to discuss with Gu Qijue. It was just that she could essentially be considered Gu Qijue's half-daughter, so she was a bit clingy. Her bloodline and most of the power throughout her body originated from Gu Qijue. when the Emperor Star Alliance was fighting against the outside world. She naturally wouldn't cling to Gu Qijue, but since the Great War had ended, she could naturally go find her father. Originally, Gu Little Fish didn't know how much longer she would have to wait, but soon Gu Qijue, who had a pair of small dragon horns, flew over. After Gu Qijue arrived, he happily said to Gu Little Fish, "Sister, let's go play together." After speaking, he didn't wait for Gu Little Fish's agreement, but grabbed her little hand and led her away. These two little ones were now well acquainted, and when Gu Little Fish was free, she also liked to play wildly with Gu Qijue. It was certainly the right time for them to go play. As Gu Qijue reappeared only after a long time, Gu Qijue left the lounge and went to the manufacturing hall on the top floor. Tianyue Demigod, on the other hand, was still resting. This time, Jai Tianyu had been thoroughly dealt with by Gu Qijue. In the past, she always left cheerfully, but this time she needed to rest in the lounge before she could move freely. Faint tear tracks were even visible on Jai Tianyu's peerlessly beautiful face. It wasn't that Gu Qijue had beaten her, but rather that she was experiencing pain and pleasure simultaneously. Gu Qijue didn't know what Jai Tianyu was doing. He had already arrived at the manufacturing hall, preparing to create gods. The Infinite Group's acquisition of various advanced materials from all sides had not stopped. Moreover, after conquering 4 domains, the Infinite Group also obtained a large amount of spoils of war. It was just unknown whether the existing materials were enough to continue creating gods. 180. Newly discovered deep-sea abyss. When Gu Qijue arrived at the manufacturing hall, Victoria, the demigod, was sending advanced materials to the warehouse in the manufacturing hall. Cleaning up the battlefield and distributing the spoils of war were matters that Vice Head of State Gu Qijue and the various elders could handle. As the head of Emperor Star, Gu Qijue only needed to focus on the big picture and delegate the smaller tasks. He didn't need to personally attend to everything. Since Victoria was delivering the spoils, Gu Qijue casually asked, "Victoria, how were the Infinite Group's gains this time?" Victoria was a beautiful demigod created by Gu Qijue and also one of his concubines. Victoria knew about his god-making endeavors. After Gu Qijue asked, Victoria replied, "The Infinite Group's gains this time were astonishing. However, it's a pity that there weren't many materials suitable for creating gods and demigods among the spoils this time." As she spoke, Victoria took out a small book and handed it to Gu Qijue. This small book recorded the Infinite Group's spoils of war this time. Gu Qijue quickly scanned the small book with his mental energy. After reading it, he was a bit dumbfounded. The Infinite Group's harvest this time was more abundant than any previous one. However, among the many spoils of the Infinite Group, there were very few materials that could be used to create gods and demigods. Gu Qijue could only continue to ask, "Are there any suitable materials among the other group's acquisitions?" Victoria shook her head upon hearing this. "They are all very few, and the 4 Domains Alliance's demigod crystal core seems to have already been plundered." After speaking, Victoria thought of another very important matter. "Your Excellency, the head of state, we have discovered something strange." Gu Qijue casually asked, "What strange thing?" Victoria said solemnly, "In the 7 domains we currently control, demigods have gone missing in the past." A look of confusion appeared in Gu Qijue's eyes. Demigods going missing? In the absence of gods, demigods were the most powerful beings. The disappearance of a demigod powerhouse could be said to be an extremely bizarre occurrence. Victoria nodded. "Yes, and it's not just 2 or 3 demigods missing, but a large number of demigods. The circumstances of these demigods' disappearances are all similar. They all vanished completely without any explanation." Gu Qijue listened and asked, "Is there any conclusion on this matter?" Victoria thought for a moment, then simply sent a piece of information to Gu Qijue. "Your Excellency, the head of state, there is no conclusion regarding the disappearance of demigods, but many unconfirmed conjectures are in the information I sent you." Gu Qijue naturally needed to pay attention to this matter. Regardless of the reason, one confirmed fact was certain. That is, in this place, a large number of demigods have disappeared. This indicates that in places unseen by others, there is a power that can easily make demigods disappear. Among his many wives in the harem, the strongest were demigods. Other demigods disappearing had little to do with him. If one of his wives disappeared, that would be very upsetting. Gu Qijue immediately began to carefully examine the information Victoria sent him. This information was full of conflicting opinions, with no definitive conclusion. After reading it, Gu Qijue was still confused, because most of the various statements in the information were just conjectures. Although these conjectures had some basis, they didn't seem very reliable. The only thing that Gu Qijue found somewhat concerning was a conjecture about an evil god legend. These evil god legends spoke of an ancient temple within the life-forbidden zone, and in the ancient temple, an evil god was worshipped. The life-forbidden zone on the southeast continent plate was a very dangerous forbidden land. Even demigods entering it might not be able to return unscathed. As for the ancient temple deep within the life-forbidden zone, there were many rumors. True or false? Gu Qijue pondered for a moment and gave up the idea of exploring the ancient temple. Currently, he still wanted to create as many gods as possible. For him, the head of Emperor Star, beautiful goddesses like the moon goddess were very useful. On one hand, it could make his harem flourish, and on the other hand, it could strengthen the Emperor Star Alliance's combat capabilities. However, creating gods was an extremely energy-consuming and resource-intensive endeavor. The Emperor Star Alliance had now conquered 7 domains, yet only one god had been created. Gu Qijue thought for a moment, then issued an order to Victoria. The Infinite Group is to continue acquiring materials for creating demigods and gods from all parties. Victoria bowed in response. As you command, Your Excellency. The head of state, Gu Qijue did not order the acquisition of God Crystal Core. If there were God Crystal Core, creating gods would become much simpler. 1 God Crystal Core, plus other rare materials and a large amount of energy stones, could be used with the Infinite Engine to create a demigod. But even demigod crystal core were incredibly rare. So something like a god crystal core simply wouldn't exist. Gu Qijue felt that the southeast continent plate would not have god crystal core. Under normal circumstances, his judgment should be correct. However, in a place like the South Heng Domain, where even the super god rank blood dragon god existed, possessing a god crystal core didn't seem so incredible. At this moment, Gu Qijue's 2 adopted sons and 1 adopted daughter had discovered another abyssal trench in the South Heng Sea. Gu Yinling had now become a demigod, while Gu Qidong was still at peak demigod. Not yet a god, Gu Little Fish, behind these 2, was completely just tagging along. When it came to treasure hunting and mining, Gu Yinling was a professional. He had always been Gu Qijue's rare resource collection squad leader, often leading teams to survey and collect various rare resources. At this moment, Gu Yinling carefully observed the vicinity of the abyssal trench, then said to his younger siblings behind him, "Let's go back and tell adoptive father. There's a dangerous aura below, and most likely, a powerful demigod exists there." Gu Qitong heard this and said indifferently, "What's there to be afraid of? I'll go down and smash him to death." As he spoke, he was about to dive down into the abyssal trench, but the small dragon horn on top of his head was grabbed by Gu Little Fish. "Can't you listen to orders? What if there's a god above a demigod down there? You'll be beaten to death by them. Let's listen to Big Brother Yinling and report the situation here to adoptive father." Gu Qidong was still a bit unconvinced, because he also had the strength to fight a god. But helplessly, his small dragon horn of fate was seized, and he was brought back to the Infinite Group headquarters by Gu Little Fish and Gu Yinling. In Gu Qijue's office at the Infinite Group's floating base, he soon saw his 2 adopted sons and 1 adopted daughter. Gu Yinling came nearby and bowed to Gu Qijue. Adoptive father. The previous fierce battle caused a previously non-existent abyssal trench to appear on the seabed of the South Heng Sea. We sensed a demigod-level aura in the abyssal trench, and have come specifically to report it to adoptive father. Early month, begging for guaranteed monthly votes. Thank you 181, 9 Dragons Golden Cone. The imprisoned god Gu Qijue was very interested in South Heng Sea. It was in a deep-sea abyss in South Heng Sea that he obtained the Blood Dragon God's legacy. Although he didn't know why the Blood Dragon God chose that place as a burial ground. But since the aftershocks of the previous battle created a new deep-sea abyss in South Heng Sea, he naturally had to go and see. This time, Gu Qijue brought his 2 adopted sons and 1 adopted daughter to South Heng Sea. Not long after, they arrived at a deep-sea abyss. The Mermaid Emperor, the Black Flood Dragon Emperor, and the Water Spirit Emperor, these 3 overlords of South Heng Sea, and also the only 3 demigods of the Dragon Blood Demon clan in South Heng Sea, had already arrived. Seeing Gu Qijue and his group of 4, the Mermaid Emperor and the other 2 bowed in salute. "Greetings, Your Excellency, the head of state. Greetings, Your Highnesses 3. Gu Qijue waved his hand, signaling them not to be too formal. Then, he asked the Mermaid Emperor and the other 2, "Have you found anything here?" The 3 of them shook their heads. "Your Excellency, the head of state, we only found that this deep-sea abyss is extremely deep. We submerged for a long time, but still found nothing. We can still only feel that rather special demigod chi. Besides that, there are no other discoveries. After the Mermaid Emperor finished speaking, the Black Flood Dragon Emperor and the Water Spirit Emperor both nodded. Like the Mermaid Emperor, they had found nothing special in this place, and after submerging for a certain distance, they even felt a faint unease in their hearts. Seeing that the three had no special discoveries, Gu Qijue immediately said, "In that case, you all stay up here, and I, the head of state, will go down and take a look." The three of them bowed in unison, accepting the order. "As you command, Your Excellency, the head of state." Gu Qijue then wasted no time, directly taking Gu Yinling, Gu Little Fish, and Gu Qidong, the three little ones, and diving downwards together. This deep-sea abyss should have always existed. It was just hidden for some unknown reason before, but this time it was completely revealed. Gu Qijue submerged for a moment, and he confirmed that this place didn't just have demigod chi, but a true divine being. "There's a divine being down there. I wonder what the situation is. You three go up and wait for me. I'll go down and take a look." The three of Gu Yinling bowed in unison. "As you command." After speaking, Gu Qidong added, "Godfather, I want to go with you." His situation was rather special. On the surface, he was at the demigod peak, but when he fully unleashed his power, he could fight against a divine being. It was also fine to consider him a divine rank combat unit. Therefore, after Gu Qidong spoke, Gu Qijue nodded. "All right, then you come down with me." Gu Qidong was very happy to hear this and immediately transformed into a blood dragon. In his blood dragon state, his strength was only slightly weaker than that of the moon god. If he fully unleashed his power, it would be no problem to contend with the moon god. Gu Yinling and Gu Little Fish were still a bit weak, so they could only obediently return to the top of the deep-sea abyss. Their strength wasn't actually that weak, after all. One was a demigod and the other an emperor. However, compared to Gu Qijue and Gu Qidong, their strength was somewhat feeble. Gu Qijue, with Gu Qidong transformed into a blood dragon, continued to dive downwards. As they got closer, they felt the chi of two divine beings. There were actually two divine beings present below. However, after diving a certain distance, Gu Qijue's vision and perception were completely obscured. Before him, a huge, pitch-black light shield appeared. This light shield emitted an eerie, faint glow. Gu Qijue's figure instantly transformed into his second combat form, and a blood spear also appeared in his hand. This place was clearly not simple. Moreover, with two divine beings below, he couldn't be careless. After preparing, Gu Qijue and Gu Qidong entered the light shield. The moment he entered the light shield, Gu Qijue realized something was wrong. This place seemed to be a trap. He tried to go back the way he came, and then he found that he indeed couldn't get out. This place was set up by someone unknown. It was actually a dangerous place where one could enter but not leave. Although the light shield was pitch black, the space inside was bright. Gu Qijue saw two divine beings below. One of the divine beings was a goddess, her hands and feet pierced by golden cones, pinning her firmly to the ground. Not just her hands and feet, but other parts of her body also had golden cones, piercing through her, completely immobilizing her. There were a total of 9 such golden cones. Opposite this goddess was another divine being. This divine being had a human upper body and a giant spider lower body. Originally, he should have been bound by numerous chains, but when Gu Qijue and Gu Qidong appeared here, only one of the 6 chains binding him remained. Coincidentally, this last chain was also bitten off by him. After the evil Punisher divine being broke free, he looked at Gu Qijue, Gu Qidong, and the immobilized goddess on the ground with extremely cruel eyes. Goddess Tianqin was originally in utter despair, because she was confined by the 9 dragon golden cones and simply couldn't escape. During the tens of thousands of years she was imprisoned here, evil Punisher had constantly told her what he would do to her once he broke free. To avoid being humiliated by evil Punisher, she even considered self-destruction. However, she was lucky. At this crucial moment, things actually took a turn. Although only 2 demigod peak powerhouses had arrived, as long as these 2 could remove the golden cones from her body, all 3 of them could survive. Goddess Tianqin immediately spoke urgently. "This evil Punisher is a madman. Help me remove the golden cones from my body and the 3 of us can deal with him together. Otherwise, all 3 of us will die in this place." After Goddess Tianqin finished speaking, Gu Qijue shook his head. This made Goddess Tianqin anxious and she quickly continued, "What I said is true, evil Punisher is indeed a madman. He will definitely kill us." Gu Qijue nodded this time. "I believe you, I believe he is a madman, but it doesn't have to be so troublesome." As the word troublesome left his lips, evil Punisher had already leaped up. holding a bone spear and charged at him. Facing evil Punisher's full power strike, Gu Qijue's blood spear also shot out fiercely. In this state, his aura was only at the demigod peak. But after he attacked, evil Punisher and Tianqin were both stunned. His spear strike was even stronger than evil Punisher's attack. Clang! The blood spear and bone spear clashed violently. The terrifying, earth-shattering power instantly sent evil Punisher flying. This made evil Punisher very decisively begin to burn his divine power, unleashing his full combat strength. 182. Advanced Civilization. Once visited, although Tianju couldn't figure out what was going on, there was one thing he was very certain of. The Gu Qijue before him possessed powerful combat strength capable of defying gods. Goddess Tianqin, at this moment, was still in a daze. She had just thought that Gu Qijue was too reckless. Unexpectedly, Gu Qijue exchanged blows with Tianju once and directly forced Tianju back. Tianju quickly charged forward again, and Gu Qijue was also ready to continue sparring with him. At this moment, Gu Qijue said, "Godfather, let me play with him." After speaking, a dragon roar echoed. Then Gu Qijue's body grew larger, and god-rank power began to flow within it. Its dragon claw slammed down fiercely, directly swatting the leaping Tianju back on the spot. Tianju and goddess Tianqin, the two gods, could only stare dumbfounded again. It was already incredible that Gu Qijue could defy gods with a demigod realm. As a result, Gu Qijue could also defy gods with a demigod realm. Could it be that during the tens of thousands of years they were imprisoned, the world had become so crazy? Gu Qijue watched Gu Qijue and Tianju spar for a moment, then relaxed. Gu Qijue, after all, had some connection with the blood dragon god, and its combat strength was extraordinary. Tianju was simply no match for it. It was only a matter of time before Tianju died in this fight. Gu Qijue immediately went to goddess Tianqin's side. This beautiful goddess was in a very sorry state. When she saw Gu Qijue, she was still extremely nervous. Gu Qijue was also hesitating whether to turn goddess Tianqin into a god crystal core, directly recruit her, or bring her into his harem. It wasn't that he fell in love with everyone he saw, but that the emotion of being moved was natural. It wasn't that he wanted this, but upon seeing this beautiful and sexy goddess, he was naturally moved. Gu Qijue pondered for a moment and ultimately did not ruthlessly destroy the flower, directly killing goddess Tianqin. Instead, he said, "Open your mind, do not resist otherwise." Goddess Tianqin heard Gu Qijue's words and was very hesitant, but she truly had no choice now. She should also be glad that she was a god, not a demigod. Otherwise, she might have already become materials. After goddess Tianqin opened her mind, Gu Qijue used a mental imprint to control her. Now, goddess Tianqin's life and death were entirely at his whim. After completely controlling the other party, Gu Qijue put away the 9-dragon golden cone. This 9-dragon golden cone was a divine artifact that could be used after being refined with demonic power. Gu Qijue had no interest in ordinary magic treasures, but he was quite interested in divine artifacts like this. While Gu Qijue and Tianju were engaged in a fierce battle, Gu Qijue curiously asked, "Who are you people? Why were you